Season 17, WPTDeepStacks, Hollywood, the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
You never know when your time is going to come. To rise above the rest. To seize the opportunity. To be crowned a champion. Is it time for your story to be told? The World Poker Tour.
Hollywood final table. From 1,634 entries, we are now down to the final 9. Let's give them a round of applause for getting it this far. Also worthwhile to note is that this event recorded the second largest WPTDeepStacks main event field size globally. So we made history here. Actually, the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino holds the top record, the #1 spot as well for the most number of entries. So speaking of which, I would like to thank our host casino for this event, the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Mr. Bill Mason, the Director of Poker Operations, Mr. Tony Burns, the Tournament Director, and of course all the dealers and staff who painstakingly worked hard all throughout the series of the Lucky Hearts Poker Open. Thank you so much for hosting us once again, and congratulations for another successful event. It will be a really good final table, guys. We have very interesting characters here. So we have some friends over here, and I've asked them if we can have some energy. There we go. I'd also like to thank the WPT team, our live updates team, photographer Drew Amato, videographer Antonia Brego, our live updates reporter, Mr. Mickey Dog. Also, the Seminole Hard Rock live updates reporter, Mr. Al Rush, or we call him Al Shanhan. Thank you so much. So you can also follow the coverage on WPT.com. But also, I would like to thank special mention to our preferred playing card at the World Poker Tour, Faded Spade card. The RFID card that we're using right now is a Faded Spade card. So thank you so much. And I guess without further ado, I would like to turn you over to Mr. Tony Burns to introduce the final 9 players. Good luck, players.
Once again, good afternoon, players, and welcome to the final table, Lucky Hearts Poker Open. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. In the one seat from Miami, Florida, with $6.55 million, Kevin Jan. And the two seat from East Brunswick, New Jersey, with $2.175 million, Stephen Ibrahim. And the three seat from London, England, with $3.4 million in chips, Paul James Heiser. And in the four seat from Youngstown, Ohio, with $2.35 million in chips, Quinn Bruno. And the five seat from Long Island, New York, with $6.425 million in chips, David Coldstone Inselberg. And in the sixth seat from Suffern, New York, our chip leader with $14.75 million, Jason Young.
Once the ninth seat sits down, all right, you just go in and sit right down.
From the state capital of Florida, Tallahassee, with $5,075,000. Let's hear it for Lee Ford. And last but not least, from Lancaster, California, in the ninth seat, with $2.6 million, Eddie Sodom. All right, the level's going to start in the seventh seat today. Blind are 100, 200,000 with a big blind handy of 200,000. There's 36 minutes left in this level. At the conclusion of this level will go to 60 minutes. All right, Shelly, let's shuffle up the deal.
Welcome to Season 17, WPTDeepStacks, Hollywood, at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. I'm Jessica Dolly, here with Scott Baumstein, calling all the action today.
Thanks, Jessica. Great to be here. Should be an exciting final table.
Yeah, it's a nice mix, actually, at this final table. I recognize 5 people that I know just from either Florida or the poker circuit myself.
Yeah, I know several of these guys as well. I think that this is going to be pretty interesting. I think the most something we should watch out for here is that Jason is a huge chip lead right now with about $14.5 million, which is only 74 big blinds, so they're not particularly deep. But he does have more than considerably more, over twice as much than than the guy in second. And along with that, we have 3 really short stacks in Stephen in the 2-seat, Quinn in the 4-seat.
So we have Quinn with the short stack, as you were just mentioning, with 12 bigs, who's now ripped it in with pocket 3s.
Pretty standard. I think it's a little wide, but I don't fault them for going with it with a small pair with only 12 big blinds here.
Yeah, and him and only 2 other people have relatively similar stacks, so nice opportunity for him to double up here if he can.
Sure, he'd rather just get it through.
Yeah, for sure.
And he does. So that's going to add considerably to his stack. But like I was saying, so there's 3 guys who have really short stacks, him, Eddie, and Steven. And so that's going to change the play here considerably. We have a guy with all the chips, and because of these 3 really short stacks, he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure, not so much on the short stacks, but on the middle stacks. Guys like David Inselberg, who's on his direct right. Their hands are going to, the guys with the middle stacks, hands are really going to be tied until some of those short stacks start to bust.
Yeah, and Quinn, he's actually a cash game player. I've played with him down here for several years, so he's obviously been working on his tournament game.
Wow, Jason's waking up with queens, all the chips. The table's going to expect him to be opening really wide here, and he's getting a monster to start this one off. And he should be, when it folds to him on the hijack, he's going to be opening up most of his hands here anyway. but he's just going to get it through. Nobody has anything.
So Scott, while we have a little lull in the action, you want to tell the people at home about your most recent deep run?
Okay, well, I guess I did okay in a tournament in the Bahamas a couple of weeks ago in the 25K there, which caps off a big year for me, both in poker and in my personal life. I won the DeepStacks Player of the Year here on the tour, and I got engaged. I'm getting married soon, and then I finished that off with that tournament. So everything's going well for me.
Wow, it's amazing. On the massive come up there.
David wakes up with 2 jacks here.
There's so many nice guys at this final table. I'd like them all to do well. So many people to root for.
Eddie makes a good disciplined fold in the button with ace-10 offsuit there. Knows that David is an opening light. I think David plays on the tighter side, and like we said, he's going to be really handcuffed there with this opening range. I do have to point out what actually, that's a very good fold by Eddie Sabat. Only had 10 big blinds there and folded with ace-10 on the button to a hijack open because he realizes the position that David Inselberg is in there. He realizes that Inselberg is opening up really tight, and because he's got other short stacks around him, and he doesn't think that ace-10 is ahead of his range even to a hijack open, and he's correct. Very good fold there. A lot of people would have made the mistake there and gone all in and went with that hand.
From your experience playing with Eddie, would you say he's on the tighter side as well, though? In general?
Eddie's a great player. I'm going to have to say he's probably the most experienced player at this table. It's a little his options are limited now with the 10 big blind stack, but
If he gets a stack, he's going to be a formidable.
Absolutely. If he doubles
opponent.
once, I think he's going to become, have a real chance of this. And I wouldn't classify him as tight. He's, as all good players are, he's going to adjust to the situation. Again, another really good hand for Jason. He's going to be opening up all the time, and he's been getting another pretty good starting hand. He's going to be opening a lot lighter than these hands that he's been given.
Did you read that?
Those 3 I know. That was his dad.
So you all see the payouts there. First is $263,000, second $183,000, and third $119,000. All the way down to our 9th place finish. There, $26,000.
It was odd with you 2 clapping. It was 5, so you really blocked it up.
Eddie folding the 10 jack off and the hijack with 10 big blinds there. He's really paying attention. He's playing this ICM game well. He sees these other shorter stacks, and I think it looks like he's clearly waiting for other people to make a move before he's willing to gamble here. Kevin making a very light open.
Very light open.
On the cutoff with 9-5 off.
Okay, that's what I would expect to see there. Stephen well in with the ace-10.
Only 8 big blinds with ace-10 from cutoff to button. Totally standard there.
Okay, so for viewers at home, this graphic is actually wrong. We've been told it's not ace-3. It's actually ace-ace.
Well, if he's got ace-ace here and 8 big blinds, I expect him to be going with it.
That is just unfortunate for Stephen. Just a cooler situation there. Nothing he can do. Just a,
Yeah,
You have to jam there.
the ace 10 jam is correct. You know, he shouldn't really run into aces. He was ahead of the opener range.
Flops come 7-6-4, 7 hearts, 6 of clubs, 4 hearts. 2 red aces still have the lead, and the turn.
Ace 10's trying to running straight cards or running 10s. And that'll be it.
And Stephen will finish in 9th place for 26,000.
Can't beat yourself up over that one. That was effectively a cooler.
Oh, I'm so good. I got aces. Oh, I got aces. Oh, nice call. Sick call, bro.
Tried to ISO.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun yesterday. Maybe you had more fun than me, but
Right, he's only half of these winning.
yeah. You know those Brits.
Raise 4 1/4.
What is that? No, it's so weird. How people actually like look at the flop and look at their phone.
Very uncomfortable not having something else to do right now. I couldn't be on my phone while I'm still in a hand, but, you know, in between hands.
So right now the action is on Paul. Takes me at 425.
Nobody promised me a run to Barnes and Noble. Never came through.
The graphics are just off a little bit right now, but
See how this one develops.
Thinking about how to get Leaf to Barnes and Noble while trying to play my big. Thinking about how to get you the Barnes and Noble while playing my big.
I would like that. Yeah, you know Gabe? Yeah. Yeah, he was like, I'll take you to get Indian food, take you to Barcelona, get some books.
Disappeared.
Okay, so we have a cutoff open with ace jack. The
wow, Paul wakes up with pocket kings.
button wakes up with kings. Pretty standard how this one goes. Ace jack is a little bit too strong of a hand when you open on the cutoff just to fold to a button 3-bet. We see a flop here.
The sun has been shining on Paul thus far. Aces and then kings, right?
Paul will probably take it down with a bet here. Don't expect Kevin to be getting particularly out of line. I don't expect Paul playing this tricky and checking it back. Paul only has a little over 2 pot-sized bets left. He should be pretty comfortable getting in kings here. He's only losing to flop sets, and that just doesn't happen very often.
Bet 950.
Paul's at 950.
Paul's chipping up nicely since he got here. He probably started 4 of 9. He's already second in chips by now, courtesy of a couple of big hands early on.
Madam. Who was it? Madam. The Kings. Madam. Sacramento.
To the Suns. To you actually winning one.
Yeah, see, I'm the worst.
Makes me feel better because I'm usually the worst.
You're the best I've ever seen so far, so I don't know about that. What time's that tennis match?
Late. We gotta make it a while.
It's a good fold. It's a good fold by
It makes this hand easier for me to play.
Eddie's waking up with King Queen here with 10 big blinds. I don't think he can wait any longer here. King Queen has too much playability after losing a player. Not sure if you could hear me at home right now.
Yeah, we're. Oh my gosh! No way! No way! This guy. Really fortunate for Paul to wake up with pocket aces here. Unfortunate for Eddie, and now let's see how he plays this.
I don't think it really matters what he does, calling or raising for 5 million. Probably the same difference. Paul's now had aces twice and kings in the first 7 hands of this final table.
Oh, geez.
Eddie will be our at-risk player.
King, queen off, suit ready. King of spades, queen.
Special Eddie Sabata is going to need some help here if he wants to stay alive.
Hopefully that velour jumpsuit will bring him some luck.
Alright, Shelly, let's see a bluff.
That was red aces.
Bluffs come check.
Okay, all right.
Eddie can now win with a 10.
Jack down, jack of hearts, and 9 of spades. Eddie was to catch a 10. 2 other runners, stay alive. See a turn. Turn is queen.
10
Okay.
or queen.
Queen plus.
Picked up some outs there on the turn. He's got 6 outs.
Catch either
2 queens and 4 tens.
Stay alive. Shelly, see the river. There was an 8 of
Oh.
spades.
Eddie Sabat will be our 8th place finisher for $34,125.
Aces twice? get lessons? Listen, my mom told me just play aces. Not just play aces. Lesson 1, call with aces.
Oh, she's good time.
I've had aces 2 out of 8 hands at the final table. 3.
Being jealous, David.
Not jealous, envious.
Pretty jealous.
Very jealous.
Yeah.
But a nice gentleman.
What, is it good when somebody goes all in? Yeah, decent? Is that good?
He's riding.
Wow, look at Paul has now picked up pocket jacks following the pocket aces hand. It's a good day to be Paul thus far.
Wow, this is incredible. He's had aces twice, kings and jacks, and we've seen what, 8 hands?
I think maybe even 8 hands.
So he's averaging, jacks plus every other hand. Good time to run hot.
Definitely.
Not only is he getting these hands, but he's winning all ins with them.
Right, it's not like he's getting them and everyone's folding. He's
Yeah.
getting them and everyone's all in, or there's a 3-bet. If I was his opponent, I'm like, please don't let me have anything less than jacks here.
Great music all week, too.
And this is the worst outcome he's had so far, just a raise and take it down with jacks. Almost feel bad for him.
Yeah, Paul has gone from 3.4 million to 8.2 million in a matter of 8 hands.
Vaulted himself clear into second place, gaining on the chip leader Jason Young and separating himself from David Inselberg, who's now in third place.
I had a whole bunch of funny things.
But I expect David to remain pretty quiet while these short stacks are still around, and while he has the big chip leader on his direct left.
Just some of my jokes. I don't know.
Folds Quinn, he's picked up pocket 8s.
He's trying to get an acting deal after this day. He's going to use the camera time.
Yes, if anybody wants a relay.
With about 14 big blinds and 8s, and we're 7-handed here, I expect an all-in standard shove here. I know ace 9 suited looks pretty, but this is probably a fold. You don't need to take this risk here for over half of your stack with ace 9. You have several stacks that are shorter than yours, and sit back for a little while before you need to make calls like this. Good fold.
Yeah, those suited cards always get you, They look a lot prettier than they really are, especially in his position. But it's definitely a good fold with the short stacks.
That person had been rooting for me earlier. What happened?
I paid him more.
You're all fired.
So every player is now guaranteed at least $43,000 for their efforts today.
And that's going to help everybody sort of loosen up a little bit. Nobody wants to be the first guy eliminated from a final table, or the second for that matter. Now that a couple of people are gone, I think people are going to open up a little bit more. You're guaranteed, twice as much money as you were when you started the final table. You're, people are going to be, I think, starting to play a little bit more hands now. We lost some of those short stacks.
And off of an $1,100 buy-in, this is a pretty good ROI. So I think anyone would be happy to take home $43,000.
Yep, 44,000 for 7th, all the way up to over 263 for first. Kevin's going to complete with 9-7 suited out of the small blind. Pretty reasonable. Probably see a flop here. Some people like to do a big raise with your really junk hands like these ones in the big blind. Paul is going to check. We're going to see a flop. Our first non-raised flop of the day.
5-4 check, 5 times, 4 hearts, check,
Don't do it.
Check.
Paul checks back middle pair for a little bit of deception. Kevin now picks up a flush draw. Expect Kevin to put out a bet here, because 9 high isn't going to win at showdown. Semi-bluff here with the flush draw. If he gets called, he can still make a 9 or a diamond to win this hand. Small bet bets 1 big blind, and I imagine Paul will continue and just call here. He's got third pair for this price. I don't see him folding. Now, Kevin missed completely, has 9 high, cannot win at showdown, has one of his weaker hands that he sees at the river. I expect a bluff here. Might work.
What would you expect his sizing to be here?
You know, something in the range of half pot-ish. I think we might be losing the stream here a little bit.
It's a little laggy.
Seems to be a little bit frozen here, but
So the pot's 1 million right now.
You know, I expect 5 to 700,000. You can try to rep that king on the turn, and given that run out, it might work. Might get him off of a pair of 5s here. But we don't know what happened.
Come back.
Well, we missed the remainder of that hand here in the booth, but we'll figure it out in a minute. On to the next one.
You're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're almost back there with y'all. So Paul has completed from the small blind, and
Paul did complete. Yeah.
Quinn has checked back the big option.
Another hand that's going to go blind versus blind. That's 2 hands in a row. We don't see a raise. And I think that's a function of Jason, the chip leader, being in early position, folding his hands, and the rest of the guys are sort of content to fold their mediocre hands. Seeing a lot more passivity when after Jason folds. Fine check by Paul there with bottom pair, has basically what is a bluff catcher, and does allow his opponent to bluff at it. I don't expect Paul to be going anywhere.
So we made history here. Actually, the seminal casino holds the top record, the number one spot for the most number of entries.
Wow. Gets Paul to lay down bottom pair. It was a huge favorite.
That's surprising.
Quinn did make a really big bet. He bet 350 into
600.
into 600.
Yeah.
He bet almost 2 big blinds, and he was pretty shallow behind, so he was sort of thinking that he sort of had to make a decision for his stack if he was beat. But when you do flop a pair and check there, you probably should continue, and if you'd rather not check call there, I would prefer to bet yourself and then see what happens.
You saw on the previous screen that Jason has 32% of the chips in play. 7-handed. It's a good spot to be in. Folds over to Pedro, who's picked up pocket aces.
I think we're going to see him play this one.
Pedro raises it up to 800,000. It's a pretty big open. It's 4x.
Very big open, and I think that's going to allow Quinn to get away from this here. After the 4x open, had he opened to 4 or 500, I think Quinn probably sees a flop, but just made it too big.
Bird, huh?
And we're going to be on to the next hand.
So the next stop for the WPT DeepStacks is in Montreal at Playground Poker Club. That's from February 1st to the 5th. The buy-in is Canadian 1650 with a 750K guaranteed prize pool. It's Canadian.
Playground's always great. They always smash those guarantees. People think that's one of the most player-friendly venues on the tour. Just the dealers are great. The food there is always great. They always treat the players really good, and they generally really do smash those guarantees.
Yeah, I've actually never heard a bad word about Playground. I think every poker player I know has been there and loves it.
And of course, you're in Montreal, which is always just a great city. A little cold in February, but there are worse places to go.
Action folds over to Paul, raises it up with King 10. Bottom of his range so far today.
By a country mile. But he's started to get some chips. Can afford to make some of these little lighter opens. I would have tended to not make this, which is I was going to call this a marginal open, but this King 10 off in the cutoff on Jason's big blind is still fine. King 10 is strong enough. Jason's the big blind, definitely going to defend the sevens, but Jason is the last person he wants to get into really any pot with at all.
Yeah, the good news with a hand like King 10, you're not going to get into too much trouble.
I expect to see a bet here, and Jason isn't going anywhere. Relatively small bet. Jason snap calls with the overpair. Has got to take at least one off here. Doesn't even think about it.
Check. It's a great board for pocket sevens and not a great board for two overs.
It's going to be hard for him to continue with that 5 on the turn. That 5 sort of hits everything. Either Jason had flopped something like a 4, maybe 3 deuces, or had an overpair himself, or he had some sort of straight draw combination that either makes a pair with a 5 or makes a straight with a hand like ace-3 or 3-6 suited or something like that.
And check.
It's very hard for him to continue on that 5 on the turn. And I expect this just to go check, and this is probably a give-up spot. That was just a really favorable run out for the big blind here for Jason's range. Jason has no need to bluff at it with pair sevens. His hand is just strong enough to take the showdown. And Paul's not gonna try to attempt to steal it. Probably doesn't work. Pretty standard and well played hand all around.
What the blinds next level, sir?
So the next stop after Montreal will be the WPT DeepStacks in Jacksonville. That's from March 8th through the 11th. It's a $1,500 buy-in with a $300,000 guaranteed prize pool. I've actually played in this event before. It's always a great turnout in Jacksonville. Best Bet Jacksonville is amazing. They've got great food options for us poker players who like to eat good while we're playing, and yeah, the staff is really good there. So definitely recommend, if you can make that stop, put it on your schedule to play.
Yeah, I actually went to that event last year as well. I drove up from South Florida. Didn't do well in the tournament, but I thought the cash games were great afterwards. So
It is true. It's a good stop for both poker, for tournaments and for cash games.
Raise 450.
So action folds over to Paul. Pick up pocket sevens.
Fold. Oh, hold on.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Jason, it's probably gonna get through here. David and Leaf have not played a hand yet at this final table, but that also, as I mentioned earlier, was to be expected, as those were two of the middle stacks to start the day.
Action on Kevin under the gun with ace-queen offsuit.
Raise 6.
I think it's interesting to note that I saw Kevin open, I think it was the 450 when he had a weak hand 9-5 off on the cutoff. Now, with a much stronger hand, he's opening to a much larger raise sizing.
And it may have something to do with his position as well, would you say? Sometimes they open.
It could, but I think it's something we should take a look at. He's raising based on his hand strength and his position. Fours, you know, this is a little bit, wow,
Oh, wow.
awkward spot. Let's see what we got here. We've got about 20 big blinds. Kevin is covered. 4 is tournament life, 4 7th place. I could see this going either way. I think he probably ends up calling, I guess, but I think it's really close.
It
I
is
think he
close.
might not call.
It is close. I would not have expected the shove there from Pedro.
Right.
Not after Kevin's under the gun open off of his stack size. I don't really.
He had all 3 options on the table. I thought he was sort of leaning between maybe calling and folding. You know, shoving was a little bit unexpected, but not so wildly out of line, to be honest. Does get to put pressure on his opponent. Does have the best hand.
Yeah, Kevin is going to call. He was bluff shoving. I mean, you can see it in his face.
He's got to be thrilled to see that he's up against ace queen off.
He thought he was making a move and he was going to get it through, but at least he has a pair.
He's a favorite.
Yeah.
They're probably, it's one of those spots where they're both content to see their opponent's cards in this spot.
So Kevin takes the lead there with the ace-high flop.
Turn is a jack of spades. That wants to fade 1 of 2 fours remaining in the deck. Double up. Shelley, see river. River's a 3.
Kevin breathes a sigh of relief there with the 3. Very thankful that it was not the 4. He's going to score a nice double up with his ace-queen. Yeah, with a hand like pocket 4s there in that position, I prefer either to just flat pre-flop or possibly even fold in some situations. Given Kevin, yes, he was wide like we saw earlier on the button, but to under the gun, I don't know. I'd rather take a flop with pocket 4s and see if you can flop a set, and if not, you get away from it relatively cheaply.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to say, I mean, 4s is a hard hand to play, and generally either you flop a set or you don't. He just sort of doesn't flop a set often enough to justify making the call. He's also out of position in the hand, so honestly I don't hate him taking the lead in the hand. I mean, he really had all three options were on the table. He could have folded it, he could have called it. You know, shoving I think is on the looser side, but not I mean, still within the realm of pretty reasonable. Worked out for him. I mean, didn't work out for him this time, but you know.
So the blinds are up. They're 125K, 250K, and 250K big blind. For those of you who have yet to play Big Blind Ante, instead of having each individual player ante, which slows down the game a lot, they've now changed the format to small blind and then a big blind and a big blind ante that is the equivalent of the big blind. So the big blind posts both of those. And it just speeds up the game. What do you think about it, Scott? What's your
I
take
think
on it?
there's no bad thing to say about the big blind ante. It's across the board. Everybody's a huge favor of it. It does nothing but speed up the game and add to the general enjoyment of a poker tournament. And so much so that all tours have adopted it within about a year of it sort of coming onto the scene, which speaks volume into to how much the benefit it is to the game.
Action's folded over to David, who's raised it up with ace-jack. Made it 600K. Like we mentioned, the big blind has gone up to 250K. So
We could see a defend here from Kevin with the ace-3 off.
yeah, with those new chips.
He's got some chips now. He's getting a great price. He has an ace in his hand. He knows he's going to be dominated a lot, though. He is getting a very good price to call here.
It's a really good flop for David's hand.
Even with the ace of diamonds in his hand, it's going to be hard for Kevin to continue this effectively shallow. You know, David only has 20 big blinds here.
I don't know why you keep trying to play against me, Kevin. Just play a bull. Dead guy. Kings. Ace queen. Good fold. Oh my God, my phone just buzzed. You were lying. Oh my God, you didn't have ace queen. Check the deck for aces and queens. Fold. Fold.
Yep, chip leader is definitely going to open the 8-9 suited here on the hijack.
Fold. Fold. Fold.
Calling or folding here, both pretty reasonable options for Paul. He's getting a great price, but his hand is not very good, and he's out of position versus the chip leader when he's second or third in chips. So calling and peeling and seeing a flop, fine. Folding would have been fine there as well.
Check.
Jason flops flush draw with 2 overcards to the 6 versus a pair of 6s. Pretty fair fight going to the turn, which I think we're going to see a call here from Paul. The hand's too strong to fold, and turning this into some sort of weird bluff wouldn't make a lot of sense to raise here. I expect a bet here from Jason on most turns. Proves to a flush. It's funny, I think he's less inclined to now bet a 9 high flush on a paired board than he would have if he had missed completely, because he doesn't necessarily get 2 streets unless he's up against a jack, which is either going to be a full house already or can improve to 1, in which case he loses a big pot. So he might only choose to get one street out of a hand like this, in which case I wouldn't be shocked to see a check back here on the turn, but He is going to bet. And this is definitely a tough spot for Paul. One of the worst cards he could have run into was a heart smaller than that 6. He's looking at his hand. He's got top 2 pair effectively versus the chip leader who's going to be barreling a lot. He doesn't want to be pushed off his hand. There's a lot of chips out there. But he's probably not going to want to take such a marginal hand to the river in what's now going to become a bloated pot if he calls and really push himself into the more towards the bottom of these chip counts. So very tough decision here on the turn, but it's going to be pretty hard for him to continue with a hand like this without a heart in his hand. And he does make the disciplined and good fold here. I'm not sure Jason gets 3 streets out of a hand that isn't 3 jacks or better in that spot, and because of that fact, I think that would have been, when you make your flush in the turn, that would have been a pretty good spot to mix in a check back and then bet the river. With a hand it is middling with his middle flush. I think if he gets action, he's up against 3 jacks, a full house, or a bigger flush. So for that reason, I would have checked back and seen a river. However, if he missed on the turn, I would have liked to see that pressure.
For those viewers asking, this is the Season 17 WPTDeepStacks main event final table here in Hollywood, Florida. We're at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. I'm Jessica Dolly here with Scott Baumstein. The buy-in was $1,100, and first place is guaranteed $263,000.
We have an all-in from Pedro for his last 3.5 big blinds with pocket 4s. Totally standard here. We might see a call from Kevin on the button with ace-4 suited. If Kevin were in the blinds, I think this is a no-brainer call. The problem is now Kevin might have to put out the 875 and would have to rather fold to a raise from either of the blinds. That's what he's concerned about. Ace-4 suited is reasonably ahead of the shover's range because he only has 3+ big blinds, but he's sort of leaving himself some exposure from the blinds behind him. So folding here would be pretty reasonable from the button.
It's actually a great, super fortunate to wake up with pocket 4s when you only have sub-4 big blind stack.
Yeah, 4s is really strong hand in his spot. He'd have to shove with a lot of weaker hands than that. And he does make the good fold. I think ace-4 suited is a very good fold, not just because we see he's up against 4s, but because I don't think ace-4 suited, I think you're either crushed or you're a slight favorite a lot of the time.
Yeah, and you see here,
this is a clear call from two more big blinds with a7 suited, and we're gonna see a race here. Quinn had to call pretty much anything, virtually anything from the big blind. Should be thrilled to wake up with a hand as strong as a7 suited. It is never easy, and Quinn actually takes a pretty reasonable lead with that flop. He can win with an ace, a 7, a diamond, or a king. Nearly a 3-2 favorite after that flop. Now he can win with a queen, chop with a king. Wow, that's a clear case of too many outs there. That much equity, it is hard to win those pots. 4s, holds up, gets the double. Pedro's back in this thing.
How'd you feel after the flop? Not too good. Yeah.
One more rolling with 4s, 6 million.
I know.
This is not good.
Pedro's saying he's gone all in with 4s twice. He won one of them. Didn't win the bigger one, but he's still in it.
So the next WP Deepstacks in Johannesburg from March 4th through March 17th in South Africa. For those of you who've never been to South Africa, it's a phenomenal place to visit. Aside from poker, you can go on safari there. There's so much to see. It's just a really great country. I've been very fortunate enough to go there a few times myself and get to play poker, and it's just a really inviting environment. So it's one of those nice places in the world to play poker.
Absolutely. I did the Johannesburg WPT stop as well a few years ago. It's a fantastic experience.
So Pedro has now picked up the ace queen, has moved all in for 2.7 million. We're going to see him take that down here. What was your favorite thing about that stop?
Two things, and they both really didn't have to do with the poker. I did one of those, got to a cage with the great white sharks.
Oh, I did that too. I did that before.
Yeah, down south of Cape Town, near the Cape of Good Hope. I did that. That was really sort of like a bucket list thing for me. I always wanted to do that. I was a big scuba diver my whole life. And doing I did the safari afterwards. Both of those were definitely those were the highlights of my trip anyway.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, like my biggest fear is sharks, so I thought I'd face my fears by jumping in a cage with great whites. I don't know if I cured myself of my fear, but at least it was one thing off my bucket list. Did you get to see the big five when you went on the safari?
I did. We got them all. And the hosts at who organized the event at the casino in Joburg really actually arranged our safari for us. They were wonderful. They sort of made all of our arrangements for that. So that was nice to have that. I didn't really have to do much and plan that trip out, and they really took care of us there.
Yeah, I felt the same. Just even the venue is great. The Emperor's Palace, that's where I stayed. It's got food's phenomenal. It's got a really nice pool. Just a lot of things to do outside of poker, and the poker's great. So, but yeah, it's from March 4th through the 17th at the Emperor's Palace Hotel. The main event is from the 15th through the 17th, and the buy-in is 10,000 Rand. It's approximately $1,000, and with a 2.5 million guaranteed Rand prize pool.
Which should be around $250,000 if my math is correct.
Exactly. So around $250K guarantee, and they definitely exceed the guarantees there. There's a huge turnout because they don't host that many tournaments throughout the year. So let's say they host maybe 4 big-size tournaments or whatever, and the turnout's really great for that.
They don't dilute their player pool with the tournaments. So if you play poker in South Africa, you just go to their few events a year. Leafmate waking up with his only hand of the day, ace-queen suited, and he's got 16 big blinds. He's got a decision here whether he's going to open to 500 or just go all in. He decides to go all in. Perfectly standard. I think both options have some merit. Just chooses, doesn't even want any action behind him. Yep, that's going to work.
Leaf has been around the poker community for a
Long
time.
I don't think I've ever played a tournament with him. Or actually, maybe some. I've played a lot of PLO with him, and I think maybe I've played some like PLO. He loves like those high-low games. I feel like, and I've definitely played some sort of split pot tournament with him before. But I've played a lot of PLO cash with him. He has been here forever.
Yeah, it's great to see him at another final table. I think I probably met him maybe like 10 years ago or something. So it's nice to see him still out in the streets.
We did it at the Fox with Maine also, except for Hoyt.
Everyone's rooting on Leaf in the chat. So Richard says, good luck, Leaf.
Dabs? I'll do a shot if you do a dab. Just try to make it even.
Jason does fold the button with a with a jack high, and he's doing that because he's got a small blind with 10 or 11 big blinds here. It's probably the main reason. If they were a little bit deeper in the blinds, I think he's going to be opening a lot closer to 100% than he is now. He's concerned about getting shoved on. And Pedro with the 6-4 offsuit in the small blind is, I think, is going to end up getting rid of this.
No, I think
We're going to see a flop. Leaf could arguably shove here. He's only facing 11 big blind stack behind him.
yeah, especially after Pedro tanked for so long before he made the flat. I would have picked up on that, I think, and I think Leaf did as well. I feel like he's exactly thinking that maybe Pedro doesn't know what to do with this hand, so he's going to limp, and then it's a great spot for him to be able to raise there and take it down.
It's interesting. Leaf didn't go all in there. I wonder if he would have called off a shove. I think he put himself into a position where he sort of had to, but same difference.
Jason still has 35% of the chips in play, and our shortest stack there with 8 big blinds.
They got so many pictures of him standing there over his aces. Look like a movie star.
Imagine that, Paul waking up with yet
Paul,
another massive hand.
He hasn't had a hand in a while. So he was doing ace-king. He hasn't had one of these before.
It's true. It's been about 5 hands since he's woken up with top 3
Only
premium
bet
straight hands.
25 big blinds, but I just expect a regular open, and he can't ever fold to a raise behind him here. So he's going with it unless something nuts happens with multiple people.
And
Quinn only has 9 big blinds here.
yeah, he's going to have to take it in there because
Yeah, it's close, but yeah, I expect him to shove. And
8s is on the cusp. You know, 8s is that hand. It's close, but 7s, 6s, you can make the argument, but 8s I think is just too strong.
right, because he is going to beat a couple of hands. Paul is going to open with hands like 7s and probably have to call off with that. So he is into value territory in there, and I don't blame him for going for this one. And we are obviously going to see a call from Paul. I don't know what David's thinking about with the raise and shove in front of him. There's not in a million years he's ever putting this money in here. So
He just wants
let's
to
fold this and on to the next one, Goldstone. And I've known David Coldstone Inselberg for a long time. Talk about a guy who's always there. This guy's been around the tour, around playing. He used to live in New York. I think now he lives in Boca Raton, Florida. Played with him a lot throughout the years. Very conservative player. He's not going to get out of the line.
Paul will make the call. Quinn will be our at-risk player.
Classic. My suits are live. There's gonna be lots of red cards on this flop.
Another fair fight. Paul picked up some outs. Wins with an ace, a king, a jack. Running clubs. Running board pairs. Very uninteresting offsuit deuce in the turn. I mean, ace, a king, or jack around the river. Or Quinn's going to double up. Quinn gets the double. And as good of a cards as Paul is getting, he's only down to 18 big blinds now because we are very shallow here at this final table. Anything can happen.
Someone this tournament, I'm buying a Devin Booker jersey. Was it?
We mentioned earlier that you won the Player of the Year, WPTDeepStacks. You want to tell the viewers a little bit about?
I was very fortunate. I won this very event here at the Hard Rock last January. which gave me a whole bunch of points, as it's one of the biggest events they have on the tour. And so I sort of went to a few more, traveled around, played a few more events that I probably otherwise wouldn't have, because they had such a great prize for the Player of the Year, and I was so far out in front. Last year I won a $20,000 WPT passport for winning it. They changed how they're doing it a little bit this year. They're giving $10,000 buy-in, what they call a WPT passport, which is a buy-in credit towards any of the WPT events you can play around the world, whether it be a main tour event, a DeepStacks event, or a WPT 500 event. So first place gets a $10,000 passport, second place gets $3,500, and third place gets a $1,500 passport. So it's a nice little prize to chase after if you're doing well on this tour, and actually it's actually a better prize than they have on most of the other tours. So that's why they definitely give a lot of incentive to travel around and play in some of these events if you do well early.
So the action, Pedro has moved all in with ace-5 offsuit from the cutoff. Action fold over to Paul, who is in the big blind with ace-9. And wow, I wasn't sure I would expect a fold from Paul, but I guess
don't entirely blame him. Like if you're ever going to call an ace-9 in that spot, you're going to be in the big blind because you don't want anybody to act behind you. But I think probably the main reason he folds there is because if he calls and loses that, he did have him covered, but if he calls and loses that, he becomes the short stack on the table, and just sort of ICM-wise, he can afford to sort of pass on what are marginal spots.
Yeah.
Even though that probably was in the territory of a call, it was still marginal. By passing on that, he can sort of sit back and allow other people to bust and sort of pick up some free money here and there before having to make decisions like that. I think it's probably a little closer than it might look at home. It may have been a call, but that was probably really close.
I feel like ace-8, just my personal opinion, I feel like ace-8 more often than not would be a fold. I feel like ace-9 is right there in the middle. Obviously ace-10 is a definite call. That's just my personal opinion there.
No question that ace-10 was a call. Ace-9 is always a very marginal hand. I actually lost on ace-9 in my big tournament 2 weeks ago in the Bahamas. But ace-9, I remember back in the early days of the World Poker Tour, Vince and Mike talking about ace-9, calling it the gimp hand. That's a term that isn't really used anymore, but they called it the gimp hand because it plays so much worse than its next best hand, which is ace-10. Like there's a very big gap in playability between ace-9 and ace-10, and you don't have that gap in other spots when hands are in hand rankings.
The gimp hand, I'll remember that. Diana Jackson says hello. Hello back. Thanks for tuning in, watching us over on the Facebook live stream.
I put his finger in the water, but it wouldn't be too good.
Jason is ace-king again. Oh no, Jason this time has ace-king.
Jason, not Paul. It's easy to confuse the two.
Especially as a huge chip leader. He hasn't played a ton of hands, but hasn't gotten out of line, hasn't lost any of those chips. Padded his lead a little bit.
He's raised up to 550K under the gun with ace-king off.
And he's going to get that through.
Are these mine? Oh, no, sorry. That's what that belly does. I don't do the same thing.
So how many stops did you end up making last year on the DeepStacks tour?
I went to, besides Hollywood, I went to Jacksonville, Maryland Live, and Sacramento, the Thunder Valley.
Oh, nice. Those are all pretty good stops. I really enjoy Maryland Live. That facility is great. Pedro's moved all in under the gun with pocket eights. It's a nice hand for him to pick up here. And I like picking up a pretty stacked hand like pocket eights here under the gun because it's deceptive. Some people might think you might be moving it a little bit lighter or whatever. You know, it's kind of top of your range for an under the gun hand.
13 big blinds. Yeah, too shallow to open it. He's just got to go with it.
He'll take it down. So what was your favorite stop?
Gotta say it's Hollywood.
Yeah? Just because you did as well?
I mean, I won the tournament, but also I live here locally. But, I mean, definitely always Hollywood. Not only did I win the tournament, but they get the biggest fields here. This is one of the best run poker rooms in the country. Tony Burns just always does a fantastic job. And I live here, so gotta go with the Hollywood stop. Not gonna miss anything here.
So some shout outs to the stream. Hello from Sweden. Hello, Peter. Thanks for joining us. Patrick, we appreciate you being with us. Says nice job on our broadcast. So
Small to big with deuces in the big line here. Pedro's going to go with it. Absolutely. He's got a pair. He's got you beat. Good luck to you.
Pedro is picking up hands at the right spot.
I'm actually surprised Jason didn't just shove on him small to big with Jack-9 offsuit. Only got 15 big blinds. Surprised he chose the line to limp fold there. He can afford to just sort of put pressure on his opponents there.
In a spot like that,
he might have even folded deuces. Maybe
exactly.
Not.
In a spot like that, you want to create the action, apply the pressure to your opponents, and make them make a bad decision, or you know.
Especially with a big chip lead like that. Especially when you act first. Yeah, very surprised. He's going to limp fold Jack-9 off. It's just a little bit too strong.
I don't know where my deuces will be after the flop.
He conceivably would have gotten a fold from a hand as strong as deuces if he did decide to go all in. And even if he is called by deuces, he's even money.
Like I said, Quinn plays a lot of cash, so 6-7 of clubs there looks like such a nice, pretty hand.
It's hard to fall into that trap now when we're looking at the effective stacks at this table, especially when you take out the big stack as so much of the chips. The effective stacks, which are the other stacks compared to him, are so shallow that the hands like 6-7 suited and suited connectors lose all of their values. You want to be playing power cards, pairs, big aces, Broadway cards, not hands like 6-7 suited. You're not deep enough to realize the equity of suited connectors. As we can see here, look how shallow everybody is. You have 4 stacks that are into that 15 to 17 big blind range. So it means even the big stacks are playing pots that there are only 17 big blinds effective in. So this is right now, as the stacks are, everyone's just sort of waiting. You're sort of playing your pre-flop ranges. You're trying to play your better hands.
Yeah, someone wrote in here, you must have the AC cranked. Yes, that is one thing here about the Hard Rock. There's no shortage of air conditioning.
It's the case in Florida. It's so hot outside, and you get in, every place is cold.
Pedro has picked up ace-jack on the button. He's going to move all in.
Certainly reasonable, the right play here. It's going to be hard for someone to pick up a bigger hand in the blinds here. And just like that, Pedro moves from, he had 800,000, but only got one double, and now has 5 million. So I don't know if you figure that math out at home. That's why it's, you keep pressure, you pick up these pots. When you double, he basically tripled when he doubled. But he's back to, I think, at or more than he had when he lost that original, fours to ace queen hand.
Donald says it's negative 12 degrees in northern New York. Yikes. It's not
Yeah.
quite that cold in here.
I saw New York was going through a cold snap right now. Happy I moved down to Florida from New York a couple years ago.
Folds over to Kevin with pocket twos in the small blind.
I wonder how deep the big blind is. This will be a shove if the big blind has less than 20 big blinds.
Yeah, well, we know Paul is in the big blind, and he definitely has less than 20
Yeah,
bigs.
so I think this is going to be a shove here. Oh, it looks like he is going to...
Yeah, this is kind of like what we were talking about a minute ago, but in the reverse. He's got pocket deuces now, even though we
Yeah.
see Paul doesn't have a hand, but this is a hand I'd rather just
Absolutely.
shove. I don't really like raising with pocket twos here. What are you hoping for?
Right.
If you
So-
shove here, you get a lot more folds through. You don't want to see this. You don't want to take this hand to the flop.
Paul has 14 big blinds in the big blinds. So they're effectively playing a 14 big blind. They're 14 big blinds deep together, and that's shallow enough where you can just go all in with the deuces. Hope your opponent doesn't have a bigger pair. But now he puts himself into a spot where he raises, and if he got shove on, he probably sort of has to call. But why even give your opponent the chance with a hand like ace-5 offsuit, which might shove on you? But if you shove yourself, you could probably just take down the pot uncontested. Or if he decides to call, you're playing the hand out of position, and deuces is a really hard hand to play, especially out of position. Like when you don't flop a set, which is 80% of the time, it's very hard to proceed in the hand. David under the gun with deuces is going to let it go. Yep, and
Wow, of course. Jason wakes up with pocket jacks. Between Jason and Paul, they've made more hands on this final table than I think I've made in the last 10 tournaments combined, maybe.
certainly helps.
He's going to raise it up to 550K. Big blind's 250K. Small blind is 125K with a 250K big blind ante as well. Wow, and folds over to Quinn, who's in the big blind with ace king.
We're getting these chips in here. Quinn probably just jams here. I don't even expect to see a 3-bet size that isn't a jam. Yeah, he's just going to go all in, and we're going to call. We're going to see a flip here. Nothing you could do about it in either one of their spots here.
So Jason out in front with pocket jacks. Quinn, our at-risk all-in player with ace king.
Jason would just walk in such a huge chip lead if jacks hold here. He'd become a big favorite to win this tournament if he can hold jacks to ace king here. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot more even stacks. Nobody has a club. Quinn needs an ace or a king. Running clubs for a chop.
Running backdoor straight cards. Well,
there's one of those backdoor straight
there's one of those
cards.
backdoor straight cards.
So he's going to need a 10. Otherwise he's out of here.
And Jason will score a nice knockout there. Quinn has been eliminated in 7th place, taking home $43,930 for his efforts.
That means everybody else, the final 6 are guaranteed around $54,000.
So now Jason has almost half of the chips in play. He has 45% of the chips. They're $21.8 million, all the way down to Paul, who has 13 big blinds with $3.3 million. And we've seen Paul make so many massive hands today, but that's just how it goes in this, especially, you're shallow. So even though he's making all these big hands, he still only has 13 big blinds after losing that.
Because he lost a flip with one of those hands.
Actions on Pedro, who's yet to pick up he's not picked up another pocket pair.
He's got about 18 big blinds, and he's got a decision here whether he wants to open or go all in. He's choosing to open, perfectly fine. It's a little bit of a big shove if he chose to raise all in, but that would have been reasonable as well. And Leaf now is waking up with Ace King. I expect him to just jam, and then he might get that through. He might. I imagine he'll get Pedro probably to fold
Wow.
sevens here in this
David's
spot.
picked up pocket eights though.
He's gonna fold. It went open
Yeah.
and then shove. But I expect Pedro probably to fold here as well. I don't expect him to want to call off his tournament life here with sevens. Leaf is playing definitely on the tighter side. I don't think Leaf really shows up with a lot weaker hands. Like, what are you hoping for here? Maybe Leaf shows up with sixes sometimes, but probably not even. So I think Leaf is really weighted towards ace king, ace queens, and bigger pairs than sevens. And like maybe you can include like sixes or something like that. But even sixes is probably pretty wide. But at the end of the day, even when you start ignoring ranges, I don't think Pedro's going to want to call off his tournament with pair of sevens, and he knows it's super marginal. I have a feeling he probably lets this go here.
Yeah, mostly just based on how Leaf has been playing, really snug, and like you said, you don't have to call off pocket sevens. If it was a situation where he shoved and it's a totally different kind of spot, but when you have to call off with sevens, it just doesn't feel feel quite the same. And you saw David just snap fold eights. He didn't even.
Well, David calling with eights is a lot tougher than Pedro calling with sevens here, because David had two people behind him versus just one.
Yeah, it's much easier when you're closing the action versus being stuck in between that sandwich.
David would have folded nines there and probably tens as well.
So action over to Kevin with king, queen off.
David's talking about his spot from the previous hand with eights.
Kevin's made it 550K with king, queen. Actions folded over to David in the small blind with also king, queen. Based on David's image, I wouldn't even mind him like even three-betting there, three-betting that spot. But
well, if you three-bet there, you have to just jam.
Get in,
only
right.
20 big, he only has 20 big blinds, which would be perfectly reasonable, especially if you knew that Kevin
Opened that 9-5
opened
earlier.
9-5 from the cutoff, and now we have a hijack open.
but if I'm David with the image that he has, I'd like the three-bet all in there.
I love seeing these hands when they have the same exact hand and seeing a flop, and it's just sort of who
How it
wants it
goes.
more.
Yeah,
But given how the hand has went, I think Kevin probably bets it here and takes it down.
I agree.
Whereas David could have jammed pre-flop and probably taken it down that way.
Yeah, because if I'm Kevin and if I open with king, queen and I get shoved on by David,
Oh, wow, Kevin. David's doing something very unexpected. He does call, but the bet was really small. He bet 350 into like 1.5 million. So I don't blame him for peeling a card there. They both turn the Broadway draw. He'll still be a bit of a scare card. David's going to think this is a little bit bluffy because, like, even when you do, if he had an ace, if he had a hand like ace 10 and he decided to bet the flop, he's going to check back the turn when he hits his ace for fear of 3 sevens. So this bet is really polar to having 3 sevens or better, or being a total bluff, in which case king queen beats all of his bluffs. But I don't blame him for folding there. Can't call it just a gutter.
Yeah, back to what we were originally saying with king, queen there. I don't know. I would have liked the shove. I would like the shove. Just based on his image,
But you don't earn that image for
By
nothing.
shoving.
Yeah, like I don't know if you've met or played with the cold stone
Oh,
before,
I
but
have
he's not
many times.
He's not taking that opportunity to shove. He's gonna wait for other people to bust out. Coldstone is a serial satellite player. He loves those multi-table, single-table satellites, sort of what he specializes in. And all those decisions tend towards folding and laddering up and staying alive. And he uses that same theory in here in a tournament poker and a final table. So I expect for him to be passing on those marginal situations, trying to get short-handed, even if that's at the expense of losing some chips. He's going to just sort of guarantee himself some more money. And take his chances later. So that's to be expected that he's going to.
What do you think about Jason's just flat here?
Jason just decides to call the button with the king-8 offsuit. And there's definitely some merit to it when you have some short stacks in the blinds like he did. And it's going to save him a big blind because had he opened, he still would have gotten shoved on by the ace-10. He does this because he doesn't want to put out 2 big blinds and get shoved on by, a 14 big blind and an 18 big blind stack, which they're just not going to flat very often because both the blinds are in that sort of 15-ish big blind range. So like both of them are not going to flat very often. They're going to shove over his opens. And king-8 has some value, but it doesn't have enough value to call off your stack. So he's going to be doing that. He's going to want to balance limping the button with those middle strength hands like king-8 offsuit and his really strong hands that he will call off bets with.
Pure amateur, but he just limped ace king like every small blind, and people kept ripping on it. It was awesome.
You can't just limp those hands and then fold to shoves.
Kevin liking the 6-7 suited under the gun, but can't play it.
We could see a shove here for about 13 big blinds with ace-2 suited from the hijack. Would be totally
Is he
reasonable.
going to raise? Wow.
I don't like a raise.
I don't like the raise off his stack. It's too shallow to raise here.
That would be I think that would be the last option. I think folding would be fine. I think shoving would be fine. I think if you raise here, you open yourself to get shoved upon.
Yeah, I definitely don't like the raise here. I would either shove or fold for sure.
Also, when you raise, sometimes the big blind defends, and ace-2 suited, this shallow doesn't play really well going into a flop. Suited wheel aces has, blocks well, has some good absolute value with the ace high. Just good enough to shove when you're 6-handed here with a suited ace in your hand and 12 big blinds. Leaf has 19 big blinds, so there are 19 big blinds effective at a small to big. So call here seems totally reasonable. 19 big blinds is a lot to shove small to big. So calling and seeing a flop, hoping to see a flop, seems pretty reasonable in this spot.
Wow, and Kevin's going to go for the raise here with 4-5.
And Leaf will potentially call depending on the raise size here.
Yeah, especially with his limp, I would have thought he might defend. He raised it to
Wow, I'm
650K.
surprised he folded to such a small raise. It was only 400 more. I think if you're going to complete with a hand as strong as 10 jack offsuit, you should call a raise of that size.
I thought he was flatting so he could call a raise.
Exactly. I think he didn't. I thought he didn't want to have to make it 3 big blinds and then fold to a shove with a hand that had that kind of playability. But it was a rather small raise at a big blind. I think we should see a flop there.
So each of our players are now guaranteed $53,000, with first place taking home $263,000 and the WPTDeepStacks Championship Package. This is the $1,100 WPTDeepStacks main event coming to you from Hollywood, Florida, the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. I'm Jessica Dolly here with Scott Baumstein.
Pedro king 6 suited in the cutoff. Leaf is gonna make it 700,000 on the button with queen 10 off, and obviously fold to a shove. This seems pretty reasonable. I think he's gonna get that through here.
Donald says, go Paul. Charles says, hello from Tampa. Hello, Charles. Thanks for joining us on Facebook Live in the chat. So I've mentioned so far the WPTDeepStacks in Montreal Playground Poker, the one coming up in Jacksonville, then Johannesburg, next followed by the WPT in Barcelona. That's powered by Party Poker Live from March 8th through the 17th.
I've been to a WPT event in Barcelona as well. Can't beat that. These are some of my favorite stops that I've ever done WPT stops at in Barcelona and in Johannesburg that are listed on these tours. Barcelona's my favorite city I've ever gone to a poker tournament for sure.
Oh wow, yeah, it is beautiful there, and you're so close to the beach, even in the poker room.
Yeah, it's at the Hotel Arts, which I think is Ritz Carlton, right there on the Port Olympic, right on the beach.
So Leaf has raised in the cutoff with King, Queen of Spades, to 650K. Action over to Paul, small blind, King 8 of Diamonds. Now onto the big blind. Well, everyone's got a king here. David's got King 10 off in the big blind.
This is showing how David's going to fold this. He's going to fold King 10 off, getting this price. It's going to work out to be a good fold. David does not want to go out of his way to play pots right now. I think he lets this go.
Yep, there's a smile. I think it's going.
He's folding.
Yep. And while the tighter side has benefited him in this hand. So that WPT that's in Barcelona is actually going to have all the brands there. WPT 500, the WPT DeepStacks, and the WPT Main Tour will all be there during that time. And as you mentioned, it is at the Hotel Arts there, right by the beach. I mean, this is a beautiful venue, amazing place to play poker, great food, great weather. Just an awesome time to be in Barcelona.
I should go there just to knock off my passport. Do it all in one stop.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to play everything.
It's over my birthday, too.
I mean, how can you go wrong? Getting lots of shout outs in the chat on the stream. Tampa says, what's up? Brett says, go Kevin Chan, the master. Hey, Logan from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Oh. Stu says, go Leaf. Someone from El Paso in here as well. Man, hitting everybody. Oh, and Kyle from South Africa. Kyle, we were just talking about how amazing South Africa is. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. If you all have any questions or comments, you throw them in the chat. We'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
Kevin gets the loose open with 6-5 suited through. He's now put himself into second in chips and wants to start playing some pots.
And now he's picked up a nice premium hand here.
After playing a lot of pots too, and we're at the point in the day where the other players at the table might be starting to getting information on sort of what other hands that people are playing. So he might have a reputation already as with a loose image. Because we're on a 30-minute delay here, and the people at the table could be receiving some information as as the final table goes on, though they'll probably get some of that information at the break, which is coming up at the end of this level.
Okay,
I don't
so
think we have a lot of
Kevin's raised
phones
up with
now.
ace king, folds over to David, who's going to make the call with pocket fives. Wow, and now Jason in the small blind with ace queen suited. If he makes the 3-bet here, which, I mean, you could definitely do. I don't know. What do you think here?
He's not folding, so he's going to call or make a big 3-bet. If he does make a big 3-bet, Kevin is going to jam, and I don't see David calling off. He's made about 2 million, I think. Yeah, it's going to go 2 million, 1.9 million, or 2.1 million, or whatever he did here. I think Kevin probably just.
Wow, Pedro has ace king in the big blind. Holy
Wow,
crap.
this really changes things. It's funny how far ahead David is right now against ace king, ace king, ace queen. He could just win the tournament, end it, calling all 4 of these people and quadrupling up. But yeah, Pedro's gonna go all in here, and this sort of changes everything. If Pedro didn't go all in, Kevin would definitely have jammed here, no question about it. Now Pedro is never bluffing here because he's always getting called by Jason. So Kevin probably thinks he's flipping versus Pedro. He thinks Pedro has probably tens, jacks, queens. That's what it looks like Pedro woke up with here. And he's got Jason, who's got him covered in the 3-bet behind him. So if he calls off this 4 million, he's got to call off Jason now behind him and end his tournament when he's second in chips. Kevin's gonna let it go. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. That's a good fold.
Yeah.
He happened to be up against ace queen and ace king, but I don't blame him at all. I think folding ace king off in that spot is the correct and proper play.
And Kevin's going to see. Wow.
It's funny that Inselberg called on the button with 15 big blinds.
I
with
thought he would have
fives,
shoved or
but
folded, but
yeah, I would have assumed he would have folded like the other spots that he was passing on, but calling on that one.
Pedro, our at-risk player, but holding the better hand, ace king. Wow.
Wow.
And what a flop.
Jason flops the royal flush draw, wins with a 10 or a queen. I mean, 10 or a club, excuse me. 10 of clubs makes royal flush.
Wow.
And Pedro is eliminated. Kevin's got to feel great about getting rid of that hand, although if Kevin jammed, David would have Jason would have folded, and they would have chopped the pot.
Wow. And Pedro will be eliminated in 6th place, taking home $53,785.
Now with that pot, Jason has over 50% of the chips in play. He can just put on so much pressure on everybody else. He's a huge favorite to win this tournament now, even 5-handed. Everybody else at the table's got to be thrilled. David has folded himself into 5-handed play, guaranteeing himself at least $67,000.
Wow, what a hand that was. What a hand.
But honestly, pretty reasonable all around. Obviously, ace king's an open. The 3-bet with ace queen suited is okay. Obviously fine, especially because Kevin has been opening the widest at the table. But I expect if Pedro didn't wake up behind him, Kevin probably just goes all in with ace king, and I can't imagine that Jason could have called if that were the case.
A lot of people rooting for Leaf in the chat. Deb from Australia, hi. Thanks for joining us. Atlanta's in the house. Philippines, we have them from all over the world. It's amazing. Norway as well. So thank you all for joining in. We appreciate you. Trevor says, let's go. Jay Young.
David shoved 12 big blinds from the cutoff with pocket fours. Will pick up the pot.
That would have been the worst thing to do.
I'm folding. I flat you, so you win the heads up right away with the ace. Jason said there's going to be no flop tonight.
Yeah. So if he flats the other 2.1 and they see the king high flop,
Oh, yeah. After I try to bluff my
Jason,
five.
watch that hand on the stream.
I'm gonna. If you guys had nothing, me and him were still gonna get him after the last two. I was gonna limp again, have him shove, and I was gonna snap call and be like, yes, no, and then it would have worked out, you know. Oh man, that's fine.
Action pulls over to Leaf in the small blind with 7-8 clubs. He's going to Complete the small blind.
I think when he completed last time, got raised on unfolded, it sort of insulates and protects him from completing this time, because I think he's also going to be doing that with his stronger hands as well. You can't get out of line every time when you're in the big blind and it's linked to you.
Well, they both flopped a piece of it. Obviously, Leaf has flopped the biggest piece of it.
Leaf.
Top two.
Top two versus bottom pair goes check, check. And I think Leaf's going to be able to get a bet out of him here. Top boat. Cannot be beat now. Kevin with the pair here, I'd imagine for only one big blind, is going to have to peel and see a river. That's actually a card that, pretty good card for Kevin to get away with, because a lot of the draws sort of hit with a six, making a pair of sixes or a straight or something.
They try to get cheeky and
Wow.
check the river, but you won't get any more bets from Kevin out of him.
I'm not sure he would have gotten it anyway. Mixing some checks there.
I think it was the best option for him. Try to.
He's thinking he might have, Kevin might have had a flush draw which missed and got there. Might have had a straight draw which made a straight, and he'd be betting. Might have had some really strong hands that were betting anyway. He could have gotten everything.
Unless we all go on break together, it could be a half hour, 2 hours.
We have people from Toronto, and they're saying that we're making them jealous, talking about all the warm places that WPT is going next. Well, you got to get out of town and check out some of those stops, and then you can be warm as well.
In Toronto, you could head over to Montreal in a
Yep.
couple of weeks.
Not bad. And then Columbia's in here. Orlando. Wow. I've always wanted to go to Columbia. I haven't made it that far yet. Jason's raised the cutoff to 550K with 7-9 of spades.
From the small blind with 10, I mean, from 10-8 suited with the big blind, it's a defend, playing out of position from the small blind against the chip leader. I wouldn't recommend that. He does fold. Paul is going to have to play this hand, whether he chooses to defend or go all in. Versus the cutoff open with only 11 or 12 big blinds.
I'd like to shove here. I'd like to shove.
I like a shove here as well. I think Jason's going to be opening a pretty healthy range of hands, as he's doing here with 9-7 suited. You're a pretty decent ace. And you're the short stack anyway, so you're going to have to gamble somewhere.
It's a good spot.
Great spot, because it's against the person who is probably opening the widest at the table. You don't want to be jamming here when Cold Stone opens.
No, he's just going to call. I don't like fighting here for a multitude of reasons. His stack, he's out of position to the chip leader.
Ace-8 plays difficultly post-flop. Like it's not suited, it's not connected. You just gotta.
Wow.
They'll probably get it in on this flop when he flops middle pair top kicker against
100%.
an open-ended straight draw, backdoor flush draw. But check, check. Wow.
That is.
It's interesting. Oh wow. So
check the turn.
Jason's gonna clearly bet here. Gonna have to get called here. Jamming would be strange, because if Paul does jam, he's only gonna get called by better. Do expect him, given how this hand has played out so far, to call and see a river. And then I expect Jason to jam on all rivers. He's going to jam when he makes his straight, and he's going to jam when he has 9 high and has no showdown value with the pot size. Actually, the only rivers he might not jam is if he pairs his 9 or a 7.
Right, when he has showdown value, but.
So unless he rivers a pair, I expect Paul to call here on the turn, and Jason to jam all rivers that aren't a 9 or a 7.
Is Paul thinking about folding this? Surely not. Oh my goodness, Paul. Wow, that's. Yeah.
Paul lives to fight another day on that one.
Paul's going to go to the break and walk it off and think about that hand, I think. So, players are going to be on a quick 10-minute break. Thank you all for joining us from all over the world. We appreciate you all being in here with us. I'm Jessica Dolly here with Scott Baumstein.
After 3 starting days at the Season 17 WPT DeepStacks Hollywood main event, the numbers are in. This event has a total number of 1,634 entries, making it the second largest WPT DeepStacks main event field. It generated a total prize pool of $1,584,980, with 205 spots being paid. The winner will take home over $260,000 plus the $3,000 WPT DeepStacks Championship package. We still have a couple more days of intense poker action, so good luck players in your quest in taking home that WPT DeepStacks title. For more info and event coverage, check out WPT.com.
Just sign up at clubwpt.com and get the game.
Hi, I'm Scott Baumstein, and I'm the Season 5 WPT DeepStacks North America Player of the Year. How does it feel to win the Player of the Year race? It feels great. Certainly an accomplishment. It really helped to win what I think was the biggest event you had right in the beginning of the year. It definitely motivated me to travel around and play some more of your events. Always had a good experience with the WPT Tour as a whole and the DeepStacks Tour, and I'd look forward to continuing to do that. How do I plan on using the passport? Well, it seems like I have a while to use it, so I'm gonna take it event by event and play as they come up. I'm certainly going to use as much as possible right here at the Hard Rock, between your DeepStacks main right here today and I think the WPT main tour comes here at least twice a year, so I wouldn't miss those. Was the package worth going for? For me, it absolutely was. I was given such a large lead right in the first event of the year, and you guys offer such a great prize for the WPT DeepStacks Player of the Year that I was certainly incentivized to go for it. With 20,000 plus in incentives, I felt that I just needed to have just a little bit more success to try to secure myself the win in that race. What do I think of the WPT DeepStacks Tour? Well, I think it's great. It really gives a very similar experience to your main tour at about a third of the buy-in. So it's a little bit more accessible for more people. Some of the fields are a little bit larger, and it really gives you that WPT feel while doing it for 1,000 or 1,500 versus 3,500 or 10,000, which isn't necessarily accessible for everybody. How's my year been, and what's my plan for 2019? Well, past year has definitely been the best of my life. Started out with winning this big event over here, followed by winning your Player of the Year race. Then I had the biggest score of my life, which was getting engaged to my lovely fiancée Heather, and then followed that up by winning almost $2 million last week. So, and now I'm here to just try to defend my title. So, to 2018 into 19 has been definitely a life-changing year for me. Hope that continues for the rest of the year, and I'm starting it right now by trying to defend my title here at the Hard Rock.
Just sign up at clubwpt.com and get the game.
Welcome to Season 17 WPT DeepStacks Hollywood. Hello everyone, this is Jing Masinda here at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. This $1,100 buy-in main event features a $1 million guaranteed prize pool. This event does not only attract local players, but traveling players as well. For more info and coverage of the event, check out WPT.com.
Just sign up at clubwpt.com and get the game.
Hello everyone, this is Jing Masinda for the WPT DeepStacks. The World Poker Tour has been at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida for several years now. And year over year, we've seen a lot of familiar faces. So during the break, we've asked the players what their favorite thing is about this stop. Let's hear what they say.
I would say right now, Kuro was very good, and the pool.
Kuro's great.
My favorite part of the stop is Kuro. The excitement of being in the main event.
Everything's great about the stop. Great food, great staff, great tournament.
Is the location. I love the venue.
Hometown, it's home court.
Big, high-profile players here.
Yeah, I love the weather.
My favorite thing about this stop is the beach.
Check out WPT.com for more info.
Just sign up at clubwpt.com and get the game.
G'day everyone. So I asked myself, why aren't more women playing poker? What are you doing to include more women in WPT events?
I really just want to listen and absorb. I think that's probably the best contribution that I can make in our
We are having active and meaningful dialogue with our global casino partners, trying to figure out ways on how to increase the number of women in our ecosystem.
Today kind of started the conversation, started the movement, and I'm really excited to see where we go.
I was really excited about this summit. The summit was really a great opportunity for people to get together and really talk about what the issues are for women in poker.
This summit was such an awesome experience. It's so great to connect with other women. I can't wait for the next one. I feel like this is a great initiative to start, and I know that it's going to continue for a long time to come.
I really enjoyed the summit. I thought it was very insightful as far as what all the women thought, but also there were some gentlemen here, and it was wonderful to get their perspective as far as women in the game.
I thought there were some really amazing suggestions that came out of it.
We're taking the baby steps. Now we have to implement this working plan that we have come up with.
A strong woman stands up for herself. A stronger woman stands up for everyone else. We need to work together.
We are also having a lot of fun and meaningful dialogue with the men and women of our poker community. But I know we can do so much more. I stand here before you today. With your support and your commitment, I think that we can definitely together increase the number of women who play into this game.
Tony Braxton, the As Long As I Live Tour, 7-time Grammy Award winner, Tony Braxton, January 29th at Hard Rock Event Center, with special guest, SWV, performing all their hits. Tickets on sale this Friday at myhrl.com. The As Long As I Live Tour, with Tony Braxton, January 29th at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
An Evening with Smokey Robinson. Friday, January 25th, 8 p.m., Hard Rock Event Center. With all his classic songs. Tickets are on sale now. For tickets, go to myhrl.com.
I love your face.
Smokey Robinson. Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
It's about to get crazy. It's gonna be loud. This is our house. We do what we wanna. We'll blow the roof out. Everybody's coming. It's about to get crazy. It's about to go down.
Howie Mandel is coming live. Saturday, January 26th, 8 p.m. at Hard Rock Event Center. From America's Got Talent and star of Deal or No Deal, Howie Mandel. Laugh along with Howie Mandel live on stage.
She would say, well, what's the problem? I go, what do you mean, what's the problem?
For tickets, go to myhrl.com. Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
Big flip. The two shortest stacks going at it. So either way, unless there's a chop here, we're going to be seeing a bust out real soon. Either this end or Steven's going to be left with 1.2 blinds. Michael drinking his coffee, nervous. This is a big one. He would like to win this. King, Jack, King. A jack for Steven. We got some backdoor diamonds, though, for Michael. Rooting potential backdoor straights. But what a flop for Steven. Oh, brick. Complete brick. So it's going to have to be an ace and an ace only. Can Michael hit an ace on the river again? Or will he miss again? Both have happened. And that's all she wrote for Michael. Good game, Michael, in 9th place. Our most experienced player is gone in 9th, unfortunately. Ness does shove, and this is not good for her at all. She's going to have to get super lucky. 3%. 3% here. This is a bad spot for Ness. We'd like to see a 10 or jack would give her some life. King or queen also would give her some life. Any other cards? King, we do have some life. A king or a queen would lead to one of the worst suckouts I've seen at a final table in recent times. King or queen? A queen. King or a queen? Nope. Good game to Ness. Wow, what a nice run by her. Oh, and he goes for the shove. He goes for the shove. This may allow Ramon to get off. Actually, though, any bet may have allowed Ramon to get off, because at this stage now, Ramon knows I only beat a bluff. And is he going to be raising pre-flop and triple barreling it off? Super pressure-filled spot for Ramon. Super pressure. If he calls, he's out in 7th. We'll get.
Yeah.
You have 11 million in play. You have 1.5 in play.
Can I borrow this? He's got so many.
For 500K.
Let's count.
25 point something. Looks like 25.
We are back with 5-handed play. I think we're going to be at 300K big blind. Some shallow stacks here. We're all guaranteed 67,000. Playing for another 170,000 or so up top for 263 total. This could very well be the biggest score for any one of these guys at this table. Nearly $300,000 for a 1K buy-in is huge. You don't see that a lot anymore, especially as they flatten out some of these top prizes. You know, I think, and I did want to bring it up on this show, I think the hashtag King won this event a few years ago when it was over a $300,000 first prize. With fewer people, they've flattened it out a little bit, spread that money around a little bit more, which I think is good overall for poker.
Yeah, hashtag King was his star burned bright there for a minute, but it quickly sizzled out.
I miss it.
They have those awesome plaques in play.
Love the plaques. Feels very European.
Yes, definitely.
It's very, very Monte Carlo with those plaques.
Action on Paul in the small blind with King 6 of clubs.
I think those plaques are, what are they worth now? They're worth 250,000 or I think they're probably 250K each, those plaques. Or maybe they're 500K each, maybe they're 500,000 plaques.
He's moved all in. I like this play, especially having David in the big blind.
Oh, absolutely. King, a suited king for 10 big blinds, no brainer, and David's not going to be calling particularly wide. He could be jamming with a lot weaker hands than King 6 suited. David is looking up to the heavens, hoping for a hand here. He's got 9 big blinds, the button, and a dream. Should be jamming a lot if it gets folded to him. And it will be folded to him here. Oh, I thought he hit the button. No, excuse me. That means David's in the small blind. We have Paul with the button with nearly 20 big blinds. I like that fold here. It's going to be awkward if he's opening there. David, you're gonna have to let this one go, and he knows it. David is gonna fold this, and we are gonna move on to the next one.
It's one of the worst feelings when you kind of feel like you're being blinded out. There's nothing you can do about it, really.
And it finally folds to you, small versus big, no less, and you have a hand as weak as 10-3 offsuit. He actually had the best hand, but definitely that was the right fold there against the chip leader who could afford to call you. Hand is not strong enough there. He's gonna need to see a face card if he wants to move in there.
Just kidding.
So blinds are 150K, 300K big blind with a 300K
Wow.
big blind ante.
Folds to David on the button after being folded to on the small blind. 6-2 soft suit. He's got to be very frustrated with that. He knows he needs to make a move. He probably can get through the blinds one more time before he has to shove. That's about 8 hands or so. Jason flops middle pair, bets and takes it down. So outside of Jason, the other three guys are going to probably want to wait until David at least gets all in once to make a move. But if they know the cold stone, they might be waiting a very long time before he's going to put in his chips. This is really close. I might take this spot. I don't think David will. That fold is fine. It's certainly borderline, but that's probably the right fold.
Jason's now opening up, raising with the 8-3 of spades. On the button, you saw Leaf just snap fold Jack-10 from the small blind out on Kevin in the big blind with Queen-Jack.
Yeah, I don't blame him for folding Jack high in the small blind. Just you have that really short stack David behind you. You're gonna want to wait for another elimination before you have to take marginal spots like that. And you have to sort of calling with out of the small blind is awkward, so he doesn't want to have to raise with it. He can just avoid the situation and fold.
Kevin's checked over to Jason, who's C-bet now with 8-3 of spades.
This isn't going to work. Kevin's going to call. Can't see virtually any circumstance where he's going to get blown off this hand. And that'll be a slowdown card. It's going to go check once Jason picks up some value here with the 8 on the turn. Wow!
Oh my gosh!
Wow, and this is going to cost Kevin some chips here because he's going to get bet, and it's going to given how this hand looked down. Once Jason does bet here after Kevin should check to him, this is going to be surprising. Yeah, you can only beat a bluff with your relatively weak queen here now. I would just check call here on the river. Now you're going to get raised, and what do?
I would check call here because a lot of ace highs, king highs are going to try to value maybe bet the river here or just bluff bet at it. So I would definitely check here if I was Kevin.
But he has all sorts of hands that just play the board here. He's just opening up on the button that he's going to have to bluff on the river. So now Kevin's gonna raise big, make it look like a bluff. He's certainly going to bet. He's probably going to bet close to 3 million, I'd imagine, in this spot. Certainly more than three times his bet, which would be 2.1. I'd expect a bet of around 3 million. Just make it look like a bluff. 3.7 million went big, and this is super polar. Polar to an 8 or nothing. So either Jason shows up with 8s full of 4s here, or he has nothing at all and virtually plays the board. What do you do now if you're Kevin? I mean, he really has no idea where he's at here. It's just a total guess.
You throw up in your mouth, which is probably.
I just sort of feel like he ends up maybe folding, but I'm not sure. Like I could see him calling, I could see him folding. he played the hand perfectly good and fine until you know, like, obviously defend pre-flop, check call flop, check turn, all that's great. I think where he made a mistake was leading the river. Like, by leading the river, I don't think he really gets called by many weaker hands. Unless there's like a couple of weaker queens that might have called him, but outside of that, 4 is never going to fold, and this is going to happen when your just opponent randomly wakes up with an 8, or you allow your opponent to have nothing at all, you bet into him in the river, and you get bluffed off your queen. So he's put into a difficult position to show up with one of his value hands. He doesn't know what to do when he's raised here.
Oh, yeah, that's... He's going to see the unfortunate run out for his hand.
Just how Inselberg wrote it up. He was rooting for that to happen. Found a shorter stack than himself. He's going to wait him out.
Look at that smile on David's face. He's so happy.
Every hand that other people lose chips, and chips going to the chip leader helps him.
Kevin not quite as happy. And so those plaques we've realized are 500K plaques.
And now Jason has 2/3 of the chips in play. He's now at the point where everybody else has 19 big blinds or less, where he could just be open shoving all of his playable hands. All of his aces, all of his kings, all of his pairs, all of his Broadway cards. You know, like his hands that are in the, you know, top 40 percentile, he could just basically be just open shoving. And the other guys are going to have to be calling really tightly because they're all around the same stack, and they're virtually playing for second place at this point. And the difference between 6th place and second place is 53 to 180 is $130,000. So they won't want to call him unless they have premium hands, and that won't happen very often. So I expect Jason to just be shoving when he has anything playable and it's folded to him.
Mike from London says hello to all of us, and a big shout out to his boy Paul. Paul the Wapo, he says, come on, the Heiser, take it down. A lot of fans of Paul on here.
And another bright spot. This, depending on how things work out, this could be a very quick final table.
Yeah, you were calling it at what, 6 hours, 7
I was
hours?
saying it was going to take 6 to 7 hours, and it could conceivably end at this level if we get some all-ins here. Leaf on the cutoff. This is super marginal, but the one thing he has going for him is that Jason has already folded. Leaf has an ace. He's got around 16, 17 big blinds.
I don't mind the raise here. I don't mind the raise here versus the shove.
Seems totally reasonable. And I won't be surprised if Paul goes all in here with ace-9 suited. I don't expect him to call and see a flop. This is sort of a shove or fold situation, and I think his hand is just strong enough to wow.
Wow, that is an interesting fold.
I know we can see the cards here, but yeah, it's just strong enough.
Ace-9 suited is too strong of a hand to fold there, especially after only having a button raise that you'd love that spot, you know, for me, and I'm sure for yourself too, Scott. We see ace-9 suited there, rip it in there and be so excited about it.
I do love the ace-9 a little bit too much. Ace-9 and ace-queen have been the two hands that have cost me the most money in my life in poker, for sure.
Mine's for sure ace-jack, tournament poker, not even close. I used to overvalue that hand way too much. So over to Kevin.
Clear shove here with 9 big blinds and
yes.
ace-jack.
Fist pump shove here with the ace-jack. He will take it down. So somewhere I've always wanted to visit but have yet to make it over that way is to Vietnam. WPT Vietnam Poker Festival from March 14th through the 24th. Main event is from March 19th through the 23rd. Have you ever been over there before? Vietnam
I have been to Vietnam years ago. Never for poker, but always loved traveling that part of the world. We have a jam here from David Inselberg. The ace-5 suited runs into the ace-king suited of Leaf Force. And David's going to need to get lucky. I mean, this
Nothing
is a
you can do here.
great hand for him to show up with 7 big blinds to wake up with a suited ace. Nothing he can do. Runs into a bigger hand. He's going to have to get real lucky if he wants to stay in this tournament. Flop is no help. He needs a 5 or running hearts, or he is wamboozled.
Well,
that is a great card for him. He wins with a heart, a 5, and there's now opportunities with a jack or a queen. That's not going to be one of them.
And David has been eliminated in 5th place, taking home $66,760. Everyone's got a nice pay jump, about $33,000 pay jump.
Get those pay jumps, and all of a sudden, some of those folds by Paul don't look so questionable. When you make those marginal folds, you stick around to make those pay jumps. Like we said, these guys are effectively playing for second place at this point. Jason has so much of the chips in play.
Four-handed now. Each player is guaranteed $89,000 with a first place payout of $263,000, which includes the WPTDeepStacks Championship package.
Leaf is gonna jam here with the 8s, but yeah, both the blinds are short. Pocket 8s. Blinds only have 10 to 15 big blinds each. Leaf has now separated himself from the other 2 shorter stacks here.
You're watching the Season 17 WPT Deepstacks in Hollywood. We're at the Hard Rock Seminole Hotel and Casino. I'm Jessica Dolly here with Scott Baumstein. This is the $1,100 main event. First place, $263,000 for a $1,100 buy-in is a pretty nice chunk of change.
Expect him just to fold the Jack-7 off small to big against the chip leader. With this awkward sort of chip stack here. 17 or so big blinds. Given some of the passes he's taken already, I'd expect him just to pass here. But he decides to continue, and he completes. Options on Jason. Just going to check his option. We're going to see a flop. So when you have all these chips, you can afford to just sort of bet at flops that both of you missed and take it down a lot of the time because your opponent just isn't deep enough to take chances and bet at completely whiffed flops.
Yeah, if I was Paul, I probably would have just let that Jack-7 go pre-flop.
Especially when you have the shorter stack. Kevin behind you, who's now rounding into around that 10 big blind range, so Kevin's going to be in all in or fold kind of mode. And you might be able to fold into three-handed play here.
Yeah, and a 30K pay jump. So Jason's raised it up with Jack-4 off in the small blind, but Leaf has picked up pocket nines in the big blind. He's going to 3-bet to 2.1 million.
And Jason's got to know Leaf is never getting out of line here because he's well into second place with the two shorter stacks behind him. He's so nutted when he raises in that spot, so much so that if Jason came over the top of him, Leaf would be throwing up in his mouth because he's got to understand that dynamic. So for that reason, I think I actually would have flatted in the big blind because I'm not sure you get any action unless you don't want it.
Queen 10 on Paul under the gun. So Jason's raised it with pocket fours on the button. Kevin praying to pill two nice cards here, but he'll take it down.
I'm surprised Jason didn't just jam with the fours. I don't think he wants to get jammed on there. They were pretty shallow. Oh no, Leaf was behind him and had a deeper step, so excuse me on that.
Jason's under the gun. He's going to raise it up with 6-7 diamonds. And he can just apply pressure here constantly because if he gets, anyone tries to be aggressive back, he can just fold his hands. But it's a great position that he's in with like 64% of the chips in play. I mean, he's got a great situation here for himself.
Absolutely, and Leaf is behind him, can only raise him with super premium hands. That's not going to happen very often, and the short stack's just going to have to go play all in or fold and play his stronger hands as well.
So for all of those women out there playing poker, such as myself, the World Poker Tour is putting on the World Poker Tour Women Initiatives, and this weekend they're hosting a brunch and learn at the Brigada. Myself and Lonnie Harwood will be hosting the seminar, so we're really excited for that and hopefully get more women into the game. Poker needs some new blood in it, so bring some more women out, some fresh blood, and hopefully get some more women on the felt. Kevin's going to move all in on the button with ace-3, so nice hand that pick up here on the button.
9 big blinds. You can only hope to see an ace in your hand when it's folded to you.
He will take it down.
I would say right now cool is very good and the pool. Cool is great. My favorite part of this stop is the excitement of being in the main event. Everything's great about this stop. Great food, great staff, great tournaments. Is the location, venue, hometown, home court. High profile players. Yeah, I love the weather.
Jason can afford to at least complete, I think, every time it's folded to him, because he's going to be able to take down so many flops when they both miss. See, this is going to be a bit of an interesting one, because Jason flops the worst hand, but equity, and Leaf is going to have to fold this pair.
You mentioned earlier that you attended the Maryland at Live last year, but WPTDeepStacks will be back there in Maryland at the Live Casino and Hotel. It kicks off March 15th. The main event is a $1,500 buy-in from March 22nd through the 25th, and it features a $300K guaranteed prize pool. And if you've never had the opportunity to play at Maryland Live, it's really nice because there's some good restaurants up there, and plus it's attached to an outlet mall. So whenever you're on a break or whatever, you can get your fix of shopping at the same time.
Yeah, they attached it to a hotel recently as well. It wasn't the case a little while ago, so they have, yeah, a bunch of nice restaurants, shopping, good cash games there. And it's also right next to BWI Airport, which makes it really convenient to travel to.
Thanks everyone for joining us on Facebook Live. Shout us out in the chat. We appreciate y'all being on here with us.
Would have expected Kevin to bet his straight draw there. He has no showdown equity. Flopped a little piece of it. I'd like to see a bet here from Kevin. Leaf's going to take it away from him. Jason happy to wake up with 8-9 suited first to act here. Well, going to be well within his range, so he's going to open up. Paul in the big blind with 6s and 12 big blinds. We got to see a shove here, and it should get through, even though they're even money. Jason doesn't know that. Got to see a shove here. 6s is just too strong. It's going to be 50-50, but not going to have to go to showdown. He's going to take it down without showdown. Even for 12 big blinds, Jason cannot call this. Queen 7 offsuit and 9 big blinds. This is right on the border of what he could be shoving here.
I like that move by Kevin. Opportunity to collect some chips. It's a little wide, but he's short, so.
Only one of the two guys behind you can really be affording to call properly. So you really just have to hope Jason doesn't wake up with a marginal hand.
That's a big hand for Paul on the button, King 10 suited.
16 big blinds, certainly not folding. He's deciding whether or not he should just open it or go all in with it. It is on that borderline of if you should be doing either of those two things.
He's went ahead and moved
Going
all
all
in.
that's perfectly fine.
I like this, as we mentioned earlier, because it takes away the opportunity for someone to exploit you. If you just raise, then you're facing the decision, versus if you make the decision and kind of take away from the other players.
Right, he'll see some difficult positions post-flop, especially because he has a shorter stack behind him that couldn't go with some marginal hands.
So Kevin still our short stack with 11 big blinds. So Jason has raised the button with pocket threes. Leaf has made the call from the small blind with King Jack. Leaf doesn't want to get too out of hand here because he's got these two shorter stacks. Sometimes you might see a 3-bet if the stack sizes were different, but because
he certainly can't 3-bet. I wouldn't have faulted Leaf for just folding King Jack there, because like he's just gonna the pot's gonna be taken away from him so many times. I don't think he can really realize his equity with King Jack there a lot of the time. He's got two shorter stacks behind him. He's out of position.
He's going for thin value, and I think he is going to get paid off here.
Wow, I'm surprised he gets paid off there.
I am too.
Just because Leaf's calling range from the small blind is pretty strong. He's going to have good ace highs. He's going to have good king highs. The king highs get there. The ace highs probably don't choose to bluff at it. He's got some pocket pairs that beat his threes. And he's got sorts of hands that made pairs there. I don't really see pocket threes ever really beating anything in that spot.
Yeah, I'm very surprised actually to see him.
The hands he misses with are hands like ace-jack, which I don't think he chooses to bluff with.
No, he would just check. He's got showdown value. But he's got enough chips, I guess he feels like he can make those calls and not get in too much trouble. Jason's going to raise it up under the gun with pocket fours to 600K. Blinds are 150K, 300K big blind with 300K big blind ante.
I like him raising just the minimum to 600 every time. He doesn't need to raise any more than that. I think he can get folds while just raising to the minimum, and they're also very shallow. So there's no reason to make it more.
Not sure what Paul's thinking of here.
Paul has a clear fold with 7-3 in the big blind. I know it's suited, and I know you're getting a good price, but got a shorter stack behind you. You're shallow. This you should
just fold. Must be his favorite hand or something.
I mean, this is really one of the worst hands you can start with. If you're not folding this, then what are you folding?
There we go. Okay. Whew. It's not a time to make a move with that hand, ever. Kevin with 9 bigs, Paul with 16 big blinds. And it says Leaf with 21% of the chips in play, and Jason with 63% of the chips in play. What a nice position to be sitting in if you're Jason.
Oh, Kevin wakes up with ace-king suited. That's going to be good enough for him to go all in with. He's going to be hoping to get looked up with this one.
Todd asked if they're going to be streaming the class that we're teaching this Saturday. No, I don't believe they're going to be streaming it. If they do end up streaming anything, I'll definitely let you know. Wow.
Big flop for Jason here. Leaf does catch a piece. Doesn't even think about it. Folds it before Jason can even get the chips out there.
Well, Josh says WPT needs to start using time banks. They do use them on the main tour. They just haven't implemented them into the smaller tour yet.
And I'm okay with that, and I also imagine that that's going to continue that way. I think that's something sort of for some bigger buy-in events. I don't think people in the other, you know, the DeepStacks tour range are sort of ready for that. It puts a lot of pressure on your decisions. It's certainly an adjustment. I don't think it's something for all poker tournaments. I think it has its place in sort of maybe some of the bigger buy-in events.
Folds over to Jason on the button, who's going to raise it up with ace queen.
6 1/4.
He's going to get that through. Jason raising it up with Jack 10 of hearts under the gun.
He's been getting a lot of playable hands
I know,
since they
that's
got
what I was just
short-handed.
thinking.
He has been raising every time, but they've all been like pairs and ace highs and suited connectors.
His worst hands are like really good suited connectors.
Yeah, 8-9 suited, 10-jack suited, ace-6 suited, 4s, 3s, like well into his opening ranges.
Action over to Paul on the small one with pocket 4s.
Paul's going to go with this one.
Yeah, he's got 4 million stack at 300K big blind, so.
Expect to see an all-in here.
He will get that through. Everyone rooting for Leaf in the chat. Matthew says, thanks for the stream. You're welcome. And shout out to Diana from New Jersey. I'll be in Jersey tomorrow, Diana, at the Brigada, going up there to play the WPT.
You know, I got to give a shout out to all 4 of these players for one thing specifically. All 4 of them are playing so fast, and I really appreciate that. There's no Hollywood going on here. They're seeing their hands when they don't want to play it. They're getting rid of it. There's got to be more of that. Kudos to all 4 of you.
We appreciate it. Our day gets done sooner. Also, the viewers appreciate it so that they're not just stuck watching someone in the tank. So, definitely a good thing. Kevin has moved all in under the gun with ace-8 suited. Action back over to Leaf with pocket
And
tens.
see ya, Kevin.
He will be making this call. Kevin will be our at-risk all-in player.
Kevin's going to be worse than a 2-to-1 dog here. He's going to need some help to stay alive. But totally standard shove. Nothing he can do there. Just unlucky to run into a bigger hand here. Picked up some more outs. Can win with a jack now or an ace.
He's going to need a jack or an ace.
That is it for Kevin Chan, and we are now 3-handed.
Kevin Chan taking home $89,000 for his 4th place finish. Each player is now guaranteed $120K.
And there's a big disparity between all 3 stacks here too. About $5 million for Paul, $12 million for Leaf, and the rest over $30 million for Jason. If 3-handed is drawn out, Jason can put a lot of pressure on Leaf here. Paul is effectively free-rolling it, being well into 3rd place, and doing any better than this is just gravy for him. But Leaf cannot afford to really gamble with Jason, and sort of has to wait for Paul here to take a chance. So he should definitely be opening. Wow, I'm very surprised he's not opening King 7 on the button.
Yeah, I would have.
I think that's well into hands he should be opening. I think he should be opening.
He's very wide. I think he should be opening most every
80%,
hand.
80%. So, and King 7's a hand that's in the top half of hands. I'm shocked that he folds that. And you have 2 guys who aren't shoving wide on you. Both of these guys, both of his opponents, are playing very cautiously, which even lends towards more. And anytime he sees a face card on the button here, he should be opening for sure. He's not up against people who are shoving on him very often.
It's a good flop for Paul's hand. Leaf doesn't make anything, so it's easy for him to just check fold.
Yeah, Paul should be mixing in some bets, some checks here, so should be doing sort of both things in that spot. Once it's been checked to him twice, I expect him to put something out here now in the turn. Probably going to bet pretty small, 300,000-400,000.
Mm-hmm. He will take it down. Hi, Tom from California. Thanks for joining us in the chat. I'm Jessica Dolly here with Scott Baumstein. We're at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida, covering the Season 17 WPT Deep Stacks $1,100 main event final table. We're down to 3-handed. with each player being guaranteed $120,000 to take home today. The first place of $263,000, and it also includes a WPT DeepStacks championship package. Leaf is on the button with pocket eights. He's going to raise it up to 800K. And he will take it down. We got to three-handed pretty quick.
Very quick. When I played this final table last year, it took us at least 12 hours to finish this thing.
Wow.
Very, very fast. But I played a. But let's not celebrate too fast yet, because we got down to heads up play. You know, didn't take too long just like this to get down to heads up play. But we played heads up for at least 4 hours last year.
Yikes.
When we were pretty shallow too. At least 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, we played heads up for longer than we've been commentating on this whole stream so far, for sure. Well longer than that.
So let's on Paul on the button, ace-7 of clubs here. 300K big blind. He can definitely rip this in, yeah. And he will get that through.
Paul's been chipping up, winning a couple of pots. The pots are really big now. Disparity is so large that I think either Paul or Leaf, if offered to them right now, would be happy to take second place. Leaf picks up ace-king in the small blind. So is he going to raise, or is he going to just jam? I think it's a little bit deep to jam. I think he's got like 16, 17 big blinds in the big blind. Yeah, Leaf raises to 800, and that'll be good enough. I see all 3 options on the table for Paul here in this situation from the small blind. I can see him folding, completing, or even raising here. All are actually pretty reasonable.
I think if he completes, so he opens himself up to getting raised more often than not. So I prefer, yeah, I was going to say, I prefer a fold or a raise. Just because Jason is going to know he's going to be limping, you know, so much of his range, and he can exploit it.
Jason doesn't seem too eager to play big pots. I think Jason is content with most of his hands just to sort of check in position and leverage his stack post flop and take flops.
Tom says he played Saturday, and his back of his head made the promo video. Great, you're famous, Tom. Shout out to Tim from Oklahoma and Michael watching from my home state of Indiana. Thanks for joining in. Jason's going to raise a small blind. King Jack to 600K. Leaf is going to defend with Jack 6 suited from the big blind.
It's a really small raise, small to big out of position for the minimum. I like that raise size when you're not coming in from the blinds, but I think you should make it a little bit more from small to big. It's outflopped here by Leaf and still takes it down.
Jason says he's watching from sunny Salford in Manchester. Is it actually sunny there, though, right now? I would think the weather would be pretty bleak.
Sounds like we have viewers from all over the world. Jason, another premium.
Luckily for Paul, he hasn't really had any tough decisions.
It's nice not to have tough decisions. Helps you to sleep at night.
Yeah. There's hands that I still go over years later. I think about if I would have just done this or done that.
A few of those.
How different things would have turned out. What would you say your biggest poker hand blunder? And your highest equity spot.
So there's so many to choose from.
But your highest equity blunder. I know what mine is. So.
Well, my highest equity spots were all last week for me. But I don't think there's anything I should have done differently. Yeah, I have a couple. So I have a few. I don't even have one that I can choose.
You don't have one that stands out? Wow.
I have so many bad ones. That it's hard to choose one.
At least you're honest. It's nice. So Paul's on the button with king high. He definitely thought about it. He wanted to make a move there, but what would you have done there, Scott?
What was his hand?
King deuce off.
For not how many did he have?
He has got big ones. Let's see, big ones 300K. I think he's 11, 12 big ones.
That's really close. He could have jammed there then, but folding I think is fine. King deuce off plays really poorly against any of the calls. But if you had under 10 big blinds, I would have shoved.
So Jason bet the flop here with 9-5, and Leaf has now raised him with a massive hand. Leaf has flopped a gutter, flush draw versus middle pair.
I'm surprised Leaf doesn't just call in position and take a turn, even though he does have a lot of equity. Like he still doesn't want to get jammed on, and
even with his hand.
Yeah, and risk having to go out in third. I think I would have just peeled in position. And you're deep enough where he could just call again on the turn without having to go all in.
So in the stream, Alicia says, hello from frigid Ontario. Oh, I feel for you. Get a heating blanket. Warm up. Larry from Tunica, good luck, Larry, playing the circuit event there. Wish I was there to join you in playing, but I was here playing this tournament, and then I got to go to Regatta after this, so I'm not going to be able to make it. Oh, yeah, Larry, I remember that hand when Phil Ivey folded the flush. I definitely remember that hand. All right, back to the action. Jason's raised with queen 9 on the button. Leaf in the small blind with pocket jacks. Leaf is going to 3-bet to 1.8 million. And Leaf will take it down. Well, my biggest blunder that I can remember, that I can recall, was here at a final table. First place was like 500K, and when we were, I believe it was 9-handed, I opened, and a guy had just lost all of his chips in like the previous hand, so he had like 2 or 4 big blinds, whatever. He went all in, and then the small blind just ripped and had me covered. I'm like, I don't know why they would ever rip ad pocket queens, and it just didn't make sense. Like, why would they rip? But
And
then
you folded?
I folded.
What they have?
Ace jack.
They both had ace jack?
Ace jack and ace 4. I just couldn't believe that he ripped out of it, but it turns out he didn't play a lot of tournaments, so.
Sounds like there was no ace on that board.
No, I would have held. The 4 ended up hitting. So that's the one that's the biggest one, I think, in this spot. Okay.
It's a good hand there for Leaf. Lucky for Jason, he didn't flop any equity whatsoever.
Shelly's dealing. She's a great dealer. I like seeing her on these circuits. Dealers are phenomenal, and the staff really too. Just so nice to be able to come play at the Hard Rock, and you always know you're going to have a really high level of just like your entire environment, the hotel, the casino, the pool.
Yeah, and it's only going to get improved when the new facility opens, and I think later this year sometime. I think the poker room's going to move over there. They're tripling the size of the hotel, have a big pool, outdoor facility like that. I think that's only going to make the poker so much better, because not only are we going to getting a new room, with all these hotel rooms that come out opening up, you're going to get a lot more people that are here for vacation, and I think that just will have positive effects on poker overall. More premiums for Jason.
I mean, how does he do it on the button? He's living that good life. Jason's going to raise it up to 700K over to Paul in the big blind with King 8.
Paul has 9.5 big blinds. If Jason was actually raising his 80% like he should, a rip here with King 8 would be pretty reasonable, but I don't think Jason's shown it. When he's folding King 7, of course Paul doesn't know that.
Oh, wow, he does move all in. Jason's going to make the call, and Paul will be our at-risk all-in player with King 8 to that of the Ace, Queen of Hearts of Jason.
Queen right there on the flop. Jason can do no wrong so far at this final table. Paul's going to need a king. Running diamonds to stay in this thing.
Well, he has turned more outs here. Hit a king or a diamond on the river to double up.
And now we are getting heads up play with Jason and Leaf. And with that, I am going to hand over my commentary duties to the, I don't know, he won the main event sometime. 2010, 9 years ago, Jonathan Duhamel.
Paul will take home $120,000 for his payout, finishing third place. The two remaining players are guaranteed $183,000, with first place of $263,000. Jason has 71% of the chips in play, and Leaf has 29% of the chips in play.
put your card, you're just gonna put your card there. We'll move leaf around the three.
Is that right, though?
We'll just take the button.
It stays the same order of everything?
Yeah, so the last hand, who was the big blind?
He was, Bud was here.
I was the button.
You were the button, and he was the small blind. So he'll be the big blind, you would keep the button, it would be the same.
I go into the small one?
Yeah, the small blind's on the button.
So while they're figuring everything out, thanks for joining us in the chat. We've had people from all over the world. Everyone's cheering on Leaf and Jason, so we'll just see who's getting cheered on more.
So the position's gonna remain. Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Scott, for being in the booth. It was great.
Did you want the cards over here? No.
Yeah, the cards will be over.
Are you going to color some of the different?
Jonathan, did you play this tournament?
I did play this tournament. Yeah, played it 4 times. Didn't cash at all. So I thought it was very fun. Very good turnout. Almost 2,000 players. So even though the buy-in is $1,000, not the biggest of the buy-ins, but there are so many people that came out to play. Very interesting. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I really like this. I really like this tournament, and the structure is great as well.
Yeah.
Especially for an $1,100 buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely. 40-minute levels, but it goes up pretty slow, especially the first few levels. Yeah, so it was definitely a lot of fun. Very well organized, as always, at the Seminole. It's always like that, so it's good to play here. I think a lot more people should make the trip, too. Being in Florida in January, it's always a lot of fun.
Exactly. It's a win-win over here. Where do you live? Where are you from?
I live in Montreal, so in the cool winter. There've been a bunch of snowstorm the last few days, so I'm quite happy to be here and not have to deal with that.
Yeah, someone wrote on here that they live up there. They get like, I can't remember, 60-something. Maybe she said centimeters. I don't know what she said. But
yeah.
It was a ton. It was a ton of.
It's a lot of snow. Basically, the last 2 days, I've received an update from the city saying that it's not safe to go on the roads and to drive and stuff. So just stay home and do nothing, basically.
Wow.
So
This is a much better option then.
It is, absolutely. So even though it's
you have your swim shorts on, you're ready.
Yeah, well, I was at the pool all day. I mean, it's maybe not the warmest of times in Florida, but for me, it definitely feels like summer. So
yeah, of course.
I just went to the pool every single morning. And I've been enjoying it, and that's one of the good stuff about playing here. You can mix up the sun, the pool, and playing poker also, which is the best of mixes.
Definitely. Definitely. I've lived down here like the last 7 years. I mean, just can't get enough of it. On your worst, like if you want to take a break from poker, 10 minutes from the beach, where you live right on the beach, it's phenomenal.
It's perfect.
And having the Hard Rock as your like home casino to play in, it's
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
I can imagine. Yeah, probably gonna have to move here at some point.
Do you play Playground?
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much the only place, or definitely the biggest place to play in Quebec and Montreal. So and they have some nice tournaments. The last couple of years, they've had some big ones. They have a big one coming up in May. Also, it's a 10K buy-in. It's Poker Millions, so that's gonna be good.
The party poker one.
Yeah. So and then they have also a WPTDeepStacks in a week or two over there also at the playground. So always a lot of action. Looking forward to play it also.
Yeah. How far is the trip for you?
It's about like a 40-minute drive, so it's not that bad. The fact that you can drive instead of fly to get to the poker room is pretty good for me. So yeah, it's definitely a nice place. They've made some upgrades also. I know the place is a bit bigger. I haven't seen it yet, but a bunch of new stuff. I think they've added the slot machines, and they're trying to build a hotel as well.
Okay. So that'll be nice that they build the hotel.
Absolutely. So you don't have to drive down to the city with
the
construction and the bridges and everything. Yeah, there's a lot of people who get late on day 2 and day 3 because they're stuck, trying to get to the poker room. So definitely it's a good idea. Maybe not the greatest of a spot, around the casino. There's not much to do over there, but at least if you plan on just playing all the time, then it makes a lot of sense to stay there.
It's like Borgata, Atlantic City,
Yeah, there's not much around.
Right, you just go stay at Borgata, you play there. It's got everything you need.
Yeah,
Great
that's
restaurants.
True. That's true.
You don't need to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to either. I don't know.
Yeah, no, not in Atlantic City. I'm good. I'm good with just.
Are you going next week?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Oh,
yeah.
It's starting soon, right?
Yeah, because WPT, the main event starts on Sunday, but they're myself and Lonnie Harwood are hosting. It's called Brunch and Learn, like the World Poker Tour is putting it on.
Okay.
So for women in poker, so that's on Saturday. So I'm gonna fly up there and I'll probably
cool.
catch the last, like they have, I think an Almighty or some deep stack tournament.
Yep.
Catch that, then teach the ladies thing, and then play the main event.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Would you be up there for the main or?
I will not be there for the main. I travel a lot less these days, so I try to select the destination that makes me more happy. And I thought that the sun of Florida was a better choice.
That's a great idea.
I've been to Borgata, I think, 3 years ago. I used to go there all the time when I was younger.
Because it's pretty close for you, right?
It's pretty close. Still like a 8-hour drive.
Okay.
So, but it's not too bad. But now I'm a stay-at-home guy a lot more these days. So I just enjoy being home a lot more. So I don't travel much. Yeah. Maybe next year. We'll see. It's always a fun time over there. There's so many people playing.
Exactly.
So good tournament, good value for sure.
It's like the winter summer camp, you know? It's our winter camp.
Yeah.
Everyone's there. Oh, look, Scott's on TV.
Was that last year? Nice.
Michael drinking his coffee, nervous. This is a big one. He would like to win this. King, Jack, King. A jack for Steven. We got some backdoor diamonds, though, for Michael. Rooting potential backdoor straights. But what a flop for Steven. Oh, brick. Complete brick. So it's going to have to be an ace and an ace only. Can Michael hit an ace on the river again? Or will he miss again? Both have happened. And that's all she wrote for Michael. Good game, Michael, in 9th place. Our most experienced player is gone in 9th, unfortunately. Ness does shove, and this is not good for her at all. She's going to have to get super lucky. 3%. 3% here. This is a bad spot for Ness. We'd like to see a 10 or jack would give her some life. King or queen also would give her some life. Any other cards? King, we do have some life. A king or a queen would lead to one of the worst suckouts I've seen at a final table in recent times. King or queen, a queen. King or queen, nope. Good game to Ness. Wow, what a nice run by her. Oh, and he goes for the shove. He goes for the shove. This may allow Ramon to get off. Actually, though, any bet may have allowed Ramon to get off, because at this stage now, Ramon knows I only beat a bluff. And is he going to be raising pre-flop and triple barreling it off? Super pressure-filled spot for Ramon. Super pressure. If he calls, he's out in 7th. We'll get $37,440 as a consolation prize. But if he folds, he'll still be alive in the tournament, and he'll have a chance at the $220K first place prize. Of course, he's thinking, Scott, there's a good chance Scott Blumstein is bluffing here. In which case my 5s are good. He's wrong, but that's what he's thinking. And that's why we're facing such a long thought process here. All the Ramon fans are saying, fold, fold. And Scott's fans are begging for a call. We got Matthew, who started this hand as a short stack. He would like Ramon to call and lose. Got Steven. He would like Ramon to call and lose. You know, he's got a second shortest stack. Of course, Scott is a super accomplished player. He's been playing professionally for a long time, and you know, if he gets this pot, good game, Ramon. Ramon calls and loses. It's a rough spot. But as it is, Scott is now the huge chip lead. Scott is in an amazing situation. It looks like he probably has cracked the 10 million chip barrier. Good game to Ramon. You played well. Made a nice deep run. If Scott wins this, and Justin will be out in 6th place, and Scott will just be an absolutely huge chip leader. What a flop. Oh, 6 right there in the window. Oh, no, for Justin. Damn. Maybe a king and queen can come, but... Yeah, king and queen, 2%. It doesn't even feel like it's that high. No, that's it. Jack is not a help. Drawing dead. Sorry, Justin. You played. You had a good game. You played well, I thought. I really liked that the way you kind of went out on the limb sometimes. They didn't all work out, all those aggressive plays. But, you know, that's my style also, is to make some risky, aggressive style plays. And he was on the big blind, no slow roll. Scott calls with jacks. You got 33% chance to double up for AJ. If Scott wins this, he will be an even bigger chip leader. AJ wins this, this would completely change things. Bring Scott back down to earth. AJ would go into 2nd in chips. But Scott flops a set again. Every single time, is he going to flop a set when they're all in? 10 or a queen, or 3 or 5 for sweats? 10 queen, 3 5. Those sweat cards. 10. 10 is there. Any queen would do. There are no hearts in play, so any queen will do. So there's 4 queens. 9%. 9% actually happens. But not this time. Scott breathes a sigh of relief. Huge chip lead. GG AJ. You played real well. Okay, and this is a little different than when Scott called it the 6s. I think this is more of a potential call, but I don't know. There's certainly that moving up situation affects things. But if you disregard that, anyway, we're in for a big flip.
We've been, everything's been good so far, right? With cards?
You guys have been doing great. You're the only 2 guys that did well. You got rid of the other guys. Yeah, so you'll know. It's a little faster. You're doing great. We're going to have about 3 minutes left. Here we go. That's up play. Jason and Lee. On the break, Jason chip leading with 34 million. 975,000 lead. 14,025,000. We're playing for 263,000 right on the top. Lines are 150, 300 for another 3.5 minutes. Heads up levels are 30 minutes. Gentlemen, good luck. And I'm so lucky to deal.
Those are bigger than the ones that I gave away. You give it away? I want that. No, I chopped a few in November, but the guy I chopped with it just wanted the trophy. One guy was 2 to 1 on me, and he offered me more money just for the trophy. And he had 2 to 1 chips, so he didn't give me a chop. And he offered me more on top. Really? Just for the trophy. I was like, you got it, man. You can take it.
We are down to heads-up action. Jason out in front with a 34 million stack to that of the 14 million stack of Leaf. So they're both really good players. We'll see some good action here.
Call. Check. Action will be here.
Oh, good. Nice.
Check. Check.
I'd like to give a special mention to Faded Spade card. It's the preferred playing card of the World Poker Tour. The RFID cards that are being used in the final table are provided by Faded Spade card. It'd be nice if home games had RFID cards. It'd be a lot of fun. Unless, unlike those cheat decks from China that you can see the you can see when the cards are marked. Leaf on the button with Jack 10. Expect to see a raise here.
Raised to 700,000.
Make it 700K. Over to Jason with 8-9 offsuit. Blinds are 200, 400 with a 400K big blind ante.
Check. Bet 400. Fold.
So just who would you say has an edge heads up from
I would
what you've
say-
seen from those two guys?
Well, I would say Leaf just on experience alone.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, he's at a chip deficit, but if they were even in stacks, I would take Leaf 100% of the time. Just because I know him, he's been around for so many years. He knows, you know, he's been in this position before.
I don't know any of those guys, but they look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, Leaf has been around. I've known him for, I think I met him maybe 10 years ago, and he was around even before then. So
Right.
Jack says, good luck, guys, from El Paso, Texas. Thanks for everyone joining us from around the world over on our Facebook live stream. We're down to heads-up action of the Season 17 WPT DeepStacks in Hollywood. We're at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. I'm Jessica Dolly, along with
Jonathan Duhamel, ladies and gentlemen. You don't hear me often, and you might have some trouble understanding my English, which I apologize, but I'll do my best. It's a lot of fun to be here, that's for sure. I think Jeff and Scott are doing an amazing job. I was listening to the stream a couple of hours earlier, and they're doing great.
Well, thanks. It's gotten so serious now that it's gotten heads up before everyone's laughing. And
It went pretty fast. It's kind of surprising, especially
it went really fast.
It's a Howard level now, but there were a few short stacks, so that's what happens sometimes. Also, given that Jason had all the chips to start with.
Yeah, he had, at one point he had 63% of the chips in play. I think they were five-handed when he had that, so.
That's a good spot to be in.
Each player is guaranteed 183K now. First place is 263K, which includes the WPT DeepStacks Championship package.
Raised to 1.9. Fold.
Interesting leaf check twice there. That's a good move.
I asked Scott this question earlier. What is your biggest hand, like your biggest poker blunder? A hand that you either folded when you shouldn't have, or whatever, in your biggest equity spot?
There are a lot of those, but for me, I think everybody knows which one it is. Yeah, I mean, of course, 2010 against Matt Affleck in the main event was down to 14 players, and I kind of misplayed a hand where I got all my money in, well, all of Matt's money in, because I had a little bit more chips than he did, 10 outs on a turn, so that was not good. And eventually I got there, I got lucky. My jacks made a straight to crack his pocket aces, and so I doubled up to a huge chip lead at that point. If I would have lost the hand, I would be down to maybe 30 big blinds, 32 big blinds. But I won the hand, so I was big time chip leader. So of course it helped me a lot cruise to to the final table and eventually win it. So
Wow, here we have him. Both players picked up a straight on the turns, a massive turn card.
it's not fair, heads up.
No, it's definitely not. Doesn't seem right. Leaf has raised it to 1.8 million. Back over to Jason. He has 1.2 million to call.
There's no way this Jason's not going all in there.
Wow, what a spot for Leaf.
The hand played itself.
Yeah, wow.
Maybe he thought he just won the tournament right there.
Oh, yeah. And Leaf will score a massive double up.
That's big.
Wow. I mean, heads up, having a straight there. I mean, it's just.
There's just no way to get away from it. I mean, especially with the flush on the flop. You're playing heads up, so we got to put pressure in. We have a game, ladies and gentlemen. They're playing with the blacks too. Wow. When you play heads up, you want to be playing super aggressive all the time. You want to put pressure as much as you can on the other guy. And so whenever you have something decent or almost the nuts like that, given that you're going to be raising and playing super aggressively, now you have the top of your range. So you just got to put your money in all the time.
Just a massive cooler heads up. I mean, nothing you can do there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, what a turn card. That's crazy.
So Jess, what was your biggest hand? Or
My highest equity spot, like, I was telling Scott earlier, was definitely here a couple years ago. Final table. I think we were 9-handed still. And the guy had just the hand before had lost. He had queens. He lost the tens, so he was left with crumbs, like maybe 3-4 big blinds.
Yeah.
I opened under the gun 2, or under the gun 3 with pocket queens, and he goes all in for less or whatever, And then it folds back to the small blind. Sorry, small blind or big blind, and he just looks at his cards, and he was the one that just beat him with pocket tens.
Yeah.
He stuck that, and he's like hadn't even stacked up his chips yet. He just like kind of pulled him in, and he like looked down at his hand. And he went all in, and I'm like, I didn't like. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense now because I know now he didn't play that many tournaments, and he was mostly a cash player. And I just couldn't. I would try to go through the entire thing, and I'm like, why would he ever shove here with my stack? Like, I'm never I should never be folding the hand that I folded anyway. Whatever I folded.
You know what he had? Did he tell you?
No, I saw it. He had ace jack because the other guy was all
right.
in.
Oh.
Ace jack versus ace 4. So yeah, I regret that one a lot. A lot. But whatever. I mean, I ended up losing a flip and got 6th, but like first place was 500K. And I was probably had like 20 something bigs. I just couldn't imagine him. I don't know. I just didn't see.
He's got to have it. Yeah, the way he did it, he's got to have it.
He has to have it. Like
yeah.
I thought. Best worst case for me, he has ace king. Like
yeah, right. He never has jacks. Who should not, I guess.
No, he has ace jack instead.
Yeah.
So there you see Leaf out in front for the first time at this final table, 28 million. And Jason, first time he's lost the chip lead now.
Blinds at 2-4, it could take a while. We could go super quick too. It depends how they decide to play it, but it looks like they don't want to play too aggressive from the few hands that we've seen so far. A lot of pot control going on. I mean, if either of the two guys think they have a pretty good advantage over the other one, they want to play, you know, as small as possible and make it last. On the other side, if you think you don't have an edge, you just want to gamble as much as possible.
Right. You
Put your
want
money
to take
in.
every spot you can
Yeah.
get.
Put your money in and 45% favorite and whatever, just gamble.
Shout out to Stuart and Mel from, oh, let's see, Harrogate, England. People from all over the world. Philippines, Colombia. Thanks for joining us in the chat. We appreciate you all being here, keeping us entertained.
Call.
Yeah, right now playing small ball.
Yeah, that's surprising with 8-6 suited.
I would have raised that up.
Yeah, such a good hand.
He might be a little gun shy right now just because of that.
Yeah. Or again, if he thinks, you know, he was chip leader the whole day, so he might feel like he has the edge, or he's got the momentum, even though he just lost a big one. So you want to slowly but surely try to get it back. But yeah, 8-6 suited is just too good of a hand. It's so much fun when you've played for like 4 or 5 days, and then you just get to the final table and get a heads up. The adrenaline is just so high at that point. I mean, those two guys must be exhausted, but at the same point, they're not tired at all. You know, they're gonna hit the wall in a few days. They're gonna feel the fatigue at that point. But right now, for sure, the adrenaline is just as high as it can get. This is why you play tournament poker, to be in those spots.
Oh, what a great feeling for them. Wow, Leaf is going to flat the button, and Jason's going to pick up pocket kings. He's raised it up. Leaf will fold. So roughly even in chips, not too much difference there.
So also with the ante in play, when you're on the button, you want to raise a little bit more than you would, even though you're playing small ball. There's even more value for you being in position. So I would raise a little more than I would usually.
What sizing would you use?
Depends on the on your opponent, how he plays. If you feel that, I mean, you can just min raise everything, or just raise to 2.5x to raise to 1k there. You don't want to raise too big, open up. You know, if you get 3-bet, you don't have any room to call. So when you make it small, you know, he's going to 3-bet less often, and when he does, you have more room to call and just play in position. If you feel you have a good advantage, you just min raise, and so he's going to call off, and you just play a, you know, pretty good pot. There's going to be like 1600 in the middle, 2000 in the middle, so it's a good spot to just play in position like that.
Raise to 1 million.
Leaf has raised the button with Jack 3 of hearts to 1 million. Jason's going to defend with Queen 6 of clubs.
Now it gets interesting. It's two pretty much medium hand. It's not bad, but it's definitely not good.
Check. Check.
Both players check. Jason's turned a straight draw. Leaf's still ahead with the pair of threes.
Now Jason's gonna bet, not sure why. Just trying to make full ace high or king high, but
Wow, that's, yeah. I'd rather like to see just a check.
yeah, absolutely.
Check fold, you've got, I don't know what hand you're repping there.
If he plans on bluffing there, I would have bet the turn, but not the river, especially when it's an under 5. Leaf played it great. Just waited for it, and then it's a pretty easy call on the river too.
Jason on the button with Queen Jack spades. Raise it up. Leaf will fold. Shout out to Club WPT member 619 Poker. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I never know how to pronounce your last name. So
It's funny because I had a conversation with somebody yesterday on the table, and you know, even I don't even know how to pronounce it in English. Like I would know in French, it's Duhamel, but try to say that in English.
It looks like Duhamel.
Could be Duhamel, could be Duhamel, Duhamel. Honestly, I have no clue how to say
You
it.
answered any of them.
Yeah, well, thing is, my parents, they don't really speak English. Nobody speaks English back home, so I've never heard my name in English
Oh, wow.
before, you know, me being in Vegas and stuff like that. So I just had to guess what it is. And so I'm still guessing right now. So whatever you want, guys, I don't mind.
Jason on the button with pocket tens. Wow. Jason on the button with pocket tens, and Leaf has pocket jacks in the big blind. This could spell trouble for Jason here.
I would be surprised if you just call.
So Jason raised to 1 million. Leaf is bet 3-bet to 2.5 million. Action back over to Jason.
Pretty small sizing, but such a great hand. Jason could call there, but he can definitely raise.
Wow.
Yeah, that
All
makes
in and a
sense.
call, and Jason will be our at-risk player, holding pocket tens to that of the pocket jacks of Leaf. I mean, that's just a massive caller heads up.
It is, absolutely it is.
Pocket tens, I mean.
Two premium hands, just no way to get away from that. You're just hoping to be on the good side of it.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow, there you see Jason has flopped a set of tens.
It's massive.
Oh. Jason will score a massive double up with pocket tens.
That's a tough break. You realize you could have won the tournament right there.
Oh.
80% favorite. You should get it, and yet you don't. That's a crazy game sometimes.
So Jason's stack is now 41 million to that of the 8 million stack of Leaf. Leaf visibly upset.
You need to regroup as fast as possible. Just get up, get a quick walk.
Yeah, he's still in the tournament. He still has 8 million at 400K big blind, so.
It's plenty. 20 bigs heads up is a lot of chips. As much as, you know, it sucks, but you're still there. You gotta switch your brain as fast as possible and realize, okay, I have 20 bigs now. What do I want to do against that player? How do I want to play it? You don't want to take like 2 or 3 ends to settle in. You want to have your strategy ready already.
Yeah, like you said, I'd like to see him get up from the table just for a second and just kind of regroup.
Just regroup, close your eyes, do something. 2010, I was doing shadow boxing. I've never done it since, but I don't know why. At that time, it felt good. So whenever I was gonna win or lose a big hand, I would just shadow box and think about, you know, what's my next step? How do
Yeah.
I want to play it next?
And it's good because it gets the energy flowing and
That's true. That's
helps
true,
you
yeah.
reset. For myself, the summer, the ladies event, the World Series, I had lost a huge hand going into dinner break with the final table, and went to the bathroom, gave myself a pep talk, and just used that time to, like, you know,
Yeah,
get into my own
that's-
head,
that's
because
good.
I didn't want to, you know, be my own, cause my own demise, you know.
Exactly.
So
You
the cards are
wanna-
going to fall how they fall, but
you got to refocus and play well after that, no matter what happens. It's probably one of the hardest part of that game. Play well no matter what.
yeah.
Don't do anything stupid. See, now Lee folded his button, even though he had a shitty hand. You just don't want to do that. With the ante playing, there's just too much in the middle.
Yes, Leaf has about 20 big blinds.
Yeah, I think that with an ante this big, you should have a 0% folding range on a button. Especially if you limp a lot. You can limp pretty much everything.
Wow. He's picked up pocket kings in the big blind.
It's a good spot. He might look like he's steaming or something, so it's a perfect spot for him.
Jason's going to make the call. Maybe there'll be some redemption for Leaf here. That's not going to be the redemption he was hoping for, not on that flop, I don't think. So his kings are still out ahead, but
It's going to be action.
Jason has moved all in, and sorry, Leaf's moved all in, and Jason's made the call. So Leaf's pocket kings out in front, but it's a big flop for Jason's 7-8 here.
Yeah, it's definitely not the flop you wanted to see, but there's not many ways that all the money goes in on a flop. That's one of them.
And Leaf will score a nice double up.
Wow, what a nice run by her. Oh, and he goes for the shove. He goes for the shove. This may allow Ramon to get off. Actually, though, any bet may have allowed Ramon to get off. At this stage now, Ramon knows.
So on the button, Leaf has picked up pocket tens. These are massive hands, heads up. Usually I'm in there with like, oh, king 6, yes, let's go.
Yeah. That's why there's that much action, too. King
Wow,
6
I
is
mean,
pretty good.
yeah.
Now King Jack is, wow, it's a premium hand. Again, it could have been a 3-bet.
Could have been a 3-bet all-in situation almost. I don't know how deep they are. Oh. There's no help on the flop for Jason. Leaf is going to c-bet to 1.2 million.
Yeah, Jason's going to stick around for one more straight. Wow.
And he just pills the king right off, no problem.
Easy game.
His bet 2.2 million.
That's tough, though. He doesn't want to be check raised there. He's trying to protect his hand. He's betting and hoping. That's the danger of it. That's tough. Now he's got to wonder, is he on the flush draw or straight draw or something? But it's the worst option for him. But pretty much if you play that hand, all the money's got to go in. So you're just deciding at that point, you going all in or not. See if he's calling there, he's got to call the river also. I think so with the stack sizes. All in call.
Wow. Wow. And Leaf has been eliminated in second place, taking home $183,540 for his efforts. And Jason Young taking the championship down for $263,000. Wow. What a couple of hands heads up.
It was. It was a lot of action.
No lack of action for all of our viewers at home and across the world. We appreciate you all joining in. And Leaf actually reached out in the chat and thanked everybody for his support. So he appreciated that. But, man.
Congrats to those two guys. Nice runs. Big payouts for a $1,000 tournament. They both can be proud, that's for sure.
Definitely. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and thanks for the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino hosting the Season 17 WPT DeepStacks main event. This is actually the second largest main event turnout in the history of the WPT DeepStacks. So a massive field, a great turnout, and to take home, over $260,000 for $1,100 buy-in is a pretty good payday.
That's a good return. That's a very good return.
Definitely. Well, I'm Jessica Dolly here with
Jonathan Duhamel.
Thank you all for joining in, and have a great night.
See you guys.
I don't know, certainly that moving up situation affects things, but if you disregard that, anyway, we're in for a